Mr. Big Deal, Mr. General, the one and only.
Yes, man, I go by the name Hope Kid the General, Mr. Big Deal, new school dancehall pioneer, and I'm humbled to be your amazing host from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. each and every Saturday with DJ Tabs, the head girl, and we'll be having amazing conversation with some of the leading guest line here on this show.
Join us
each and every Saturday.
Beautiful day, one-on-one. Good morning. The 12th day of the month of November, 2025. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Victor Olo. How are you doing? Regina, have you noticed that last night, this morning, the weather has completely changed. It's insanely cold in the city.
Well, it depends if I reside in the city.
The weather changed all of a sudden, and it's so windy.
Is it?
Yes, windy, and it's so cloudy. That's how unpredictable the Nairobi weather can be.
True, I agree, because where we were yesterday at in Langata, where the president was officially launching the East Africa MSME exhibition, the 25th edition.
Yes.
Well, it was quite windy, I would accept that. But then where I was in the evening after that, it wasn't as cold or windy as it was. It was actually very warm.
Yeah.
So you may be leaving your home to come to the central business district. Accounts for 85% of the workspaces within Nairobi region, dressed for the warm weather, only to find some bit of showers on this side.
It's quite unpredictable.
So I agree, yes.
Yeah. All right, welcome to the program. So let's talk about matters education and health. Those are the two things that I want us to talk about quite deeply today on The Viewpoint, because yesterday there was a case of teachers not getting it right. The education sector is also reeling in some accusations, some of the principals, and that has also been put again to the limelight. There are so many accusations where TAC is being accused of not doing its work as mandated. And now the question is, who is going to teach integrity while learners and tutors are under siege? Let's talk about that, as well as the SHA issue. There is a case where cancer SHA payment is actually said to be running out within 6 months. And now patients are now left to reel and foot their own bill. Let's talk about that at exactly 8 after Regina. I'll have Wilson Session, who is a veteran educator and unionist. He'll be here at 7. Let's talk about education matters. And Michael Agwanda, who is the political analyst. We are getting an apology from Dr. James Nikal, who is the member of Parliament, Seme constituency. He's also the chair of the Health Committee of the National Assembly. He sent his apology that he won't make it. Okay, so the show has to continue nevertheless. Ray.
Thank you very much, Victor. It means it's just the two of us, right?
Yes. Let's do this.
Indeed. And we are going to be focusing on matters politics. I'm sure now that the opposition has come out to say that they have vowed that they will remain intact up until 2027. So it's a question of wait and see, and if time will prove their sentiments right or wrong. I'm sure that's a conversation that is going to be addressed further when we look at matters politics. And later on, after that particular panel that is going to be led by Victor in regard to that conversation that he's just mentioned, we're going to be looking at the futuristic scope when it comes to agriculture and the role that women and youth is going to play in light of emerging issues like climate change. That's a conversation we're going to be having with one of our guests from Haifa International here to just look at the inroads that have been made to foster smart agriculture, and also just have an inclusive agri-sector that is backed by technology. We'll be having that conversation as soon as we are done with our panel with Victor there. And remember, we welcome your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara. Now, we start off with stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours, and that the government is coming under pressure to shed more light on allegations that some Kenyans may have been shipped abroad to fight in the ongoing war in Ukraine. 5 families whose loved ones are currently trapped in the conflict are telling Kenya Broadcasting Corporation that they believe that the state was and in fact aware that their kin were recruited and flown to Russia to fight alongside Russian soldiers. Some of the families now claim that their sons are stuck abroad, unable to find their way home. Joseph Wahungu has the details.
Gordon Omondi is desperate for answers. He has been camping at the Department of Diaspora Affairs office in Nairobi, wanting to know the fate of a relative stuck in parts unknown. He says the man was duped into joining the war in Ukraine.
Kitoka Kenya, kidogo alijua Kenya anaenda kufanya, because that guy had told them, he had elaborated what is there. Aliwaambia kitu ya kwanza kuna vita Russia. Banao wa Kenya wakienda huko hawako wanaenda vita.
Similarly, families of Moses Oduk, Elijah Kimani, Samuel Kariuki and Noah Suyanka say their kin have been making desperate phone calls pleading for help to return home.
Wakati tuliongea na yeye, alikuwa ndani huko Ukraine, ndio alikuwa anafanya kazi. Walikuwa nalala mahali imechimbwa ile ya chini, bunkers. Ndio walichimba wakajenga huko chini ya ardhi. Sasa hata tuliongea na yeye kama analea, anataka rudi, vile anarudi ameshindwa vile atarudi.
For some, communication has since gone silent, with relatives saying they have not heard from their kin for months.
Wasiwasi wangu ni venye tumesikia huko venye vita inaendelea, kasi yenye alikuwa ameambiwa anaenda sio anafanya, hatumpati na simu kama kwa mwezi.
The families accuse the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of doing little to trace or rescue their loved ones, despite repeated visits to the government offices.
Communication yake iliisha, hatuyopatani na yeye, lakini aliniambia amepelekwa kwa upande wa vita kule ambako alikuwa ananiambia ni tumuombe kwa sababu sio kuzuri. Sasa ombi langu ni kwamba serikali tusaidie hawa watu warudishwe Kenya.
They also claim one of the agents who facilitated the travel was briefly arrested in Athi River and later released on bond and is allegedly still recruiting unsuspecting Kenyans. The families are now appealing directly to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs to act urgently to help bring their kin home before it is too late.
Sasa mimi mwenyewe hata huyo ndio mtoto mmoja niko naye na ndio nilikuwa namtegemea kwa kila kitu. Ndio huwa ananishughulikia.
Just to remind you, if you do not know the history of that famous song, Buffalo Soldier, well, you may just go online and just get acquainted with why that song was quite popular, because it depicted a time in history where black men and women were recruited to fight both the First and the Second World War. It's history. So we'll keep tabs on that as it develops. Now, opinion is divided on 2 constitutional amendment bills of 2025 before the National Assembly and Senate, seeking to attain the no more than 2/3 gender principle. The 2 bills seek to, among other issues, give effect to the 2/3 gender rule through the creation of special seats that will ensure the gender principle is realized in Parliament. The number of special seats is to be determined after the general elections. Here's a recap.
15 years since Kenya attained the new constitution, attainment of the 2/3 gender principle remains elusive. Bottlenecks such as retrogressive cultural beliefs and violence directed at women in political spaces continue to hinder these efforts.
There's still discrimination on women, particularly violence against women, which hinders them in offering themselves for position of leadership. And this discussion on the laws to address how to achieve 2/3 gender rule will help us to address the issue of violence against women, youth and people with disability.
2 constitutional amendment bills 2025 before the Senate and National Assembly are, however, seeking to address these bottlenecks. They seek to ensure that in the event membership of both houses does not conform to the principle, there shall be nominated additional number of special seat members to ensure not more than 2/3 are of the same gender.
We wait for the date when the election is done and we see how many women we got as members of parliament. If the numbers do not meet the threshold in the constitution of the 2/3 gender principle, we then bring in the number of women that will be required to top up and give us the 2/3 gender principle.
My fear is if you say if we don't meet the number, we will then just nominate top up. Then there'll be no incentive for women to go to elections. The public will say, okay, you wait for your top up. We will elect the men. I think we should change the law so that we reserve the 12 nominated slots exclusively to women.
It also seeks to amend the constitution to provide for additional seats to implement the principle of at least 5% of the members in appointive and elective bodies should be persons with disabilities.
Members of parliament, both in nomination and elective positions, to be actually those members who have lived disability for longer than has having people living disability for maybe a shorter period of 5 to 10 years, because they don't understand the disability and the challenges that we go through.
The 2 houses, since they are our representatives, us at the grassroots level, to really like to be brought now the bills to us, understand it in the language that we can comprehend. For example, our national language is Swahili. If possible, the way we did it with the finance bill, looking at the Gen Zs, even break it down to the local languages.
Well, that is bound to elicit a lot of debate at a time when Kenyans have been decrying the high cost, or rather the ballooning wage bill. Can Kenya sustain an extra or an increase in leadership, or rather government wage bill, so to speak? We are currently doing around above 300 legislators in this country. Can we take another extra to attain the gender principle? Or is it time to think totally outside the box in terms of how we elect our leaders and which preserve goes to whom? We'll wait and see which decision, the courts as well as the legislators is going to take. Now, the section of senators has called out one of their own whom they accuse of supporting the torture of Kenyans in the neighboring countries of Uganda and Tanzania. While debating a motion proposing the installation of CCTV cameras in all police stations, cells and police reporting desks, the senators led by Enoch Wambua of Kitui County said the remarks by their Nandi counterpart, Samson Cherangai, were unfortunate, coming at a time when reports indicate that almost 20 Kenyans died in police custody this year alone. Cherangai was allegedly quoted over the weekend encouraging the neighboring countries of Uganda and Tanzania to discipline Kenyans across borders and involving themselves within the politics of those countries. Now, in his defense, Cherangai accused the senators of discussing him without a substantive motion.
A member of his house, the Agas house, has called upon presidents of neighboring countries to oppress the people that we are supposed to be representing in this house. What is the speaker supposed to deal, how is the speaker supposed to deal with that member of the house?
It shocked me to levels that I cannot even imagine, that a member of this house and a lawyer, for that matter, somebody who claims to be a legal mind, would forget these fundamental provisions of the Constitution and support a situation where Kenyans are being subjected to abduction, subjected to torture, subjected to cruel and dehumanizing punishment.
Standing Order 101, Part 4, no senator shall impute improper motive to any other senator or to a member of the National Assembly, except upon a specific substantive motion.
Is, did he say what he said? And were the senators within their purview to raise a motion? We continue watching the political space. Now on to graft. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, is investigating 32 cases linked to money laundering. Speaking on the sidelines of a regional workshop on money laundering and recovery of stolen assets, EACC Chief Executive Officer Mbadi Mohamud said they target individuals who are laundering public funds and wiring them to other countries. According to the National Taxpayers Association, Kenya loses a cool 253 billion shillings every year to illicit financial flows. Abdiaziz reports.
Companies and individuals who are currently laundering billions of public funds and hiding them in other countries are now on the radar of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC.
We have over 32 cases that we received from the FRC, the Financial Reporting Center here in Nairobi, and where they have flagged certain individuals and agencies and companies for money laundering.
Speaking on the sidelines of the regional workshop addressing money laundering and recovery of stolen assets, the EACC CEO said they have begun talks with several countries on mutual litigation to ensure the funds are recovered, in turn remove Kenya from the grey list.
There is all the possibilities that some of the monies that is stolen from one country can end up in another country. We've had our Tanzanian counterparts once in a while coming to us. We've been going to our Ugandan counterparts. Some South Sudan colleagues have also been following a few cases of theirs. So by bringing these people together, we first of all want to create what is called informal networks.
According to the National Taxpayers Association Kenya and Oxfam, Kenya loses between 243 and 253 billion shillings every year to illicit financial flows.
Differences in our legal regime and their legal regime makes it so difficult for us to be able to recover our assets as quickly as we would have thought.
We are still not doing very, very well in the area of asset recovery, in the area of anti-corruption, in the area of money laundering, like you rightly said. But of course, Kenya has done so much better in the area of asset recovery as a region because they have this civil forfeiture, and like Mr. Abdi was talking about, the asset recovery that they have just done with the previous governor.
In the same light, the continent loses $90 billion to money laundering, denying critical sectors of much-needed financial muscle to spur growth.
Consider, you asked the question, Africa loses around $90 billion every year as a continent in illicit financial flows. A country like Kenya that has, economically is one of the machines of the region, is one of the most important economical centers, loses quite a lot to illicit financial flows.
11 countries are currently participating in the 3-day conference.
The conference continues and we'll continue keeping tabs on that particular convention. Now, persons with disabilities in Kakamega County are set to benefit from an assertive devices worth 15 million shillings. Now, Kakamega Chief Officer for Social Services, Gender and Culture, Christine Kimungui, says that the assistive devices will be distributed later in the year. These are the stories from our county news roundup.
Kakamega County has procured assistive devices worth 15 million Kenyan shillings meant to benefit persons with disability. According to the county government, the move aims to empower and improve the well-being of the group.
As you leave Kakamega, we want to assure you that we will continue supporting these groups. I'm sure the group that has benefited, majority of them will mobilize them into groups.
Elsewhere, Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru has urged politicians to stop politicizing health matters. She pledged the county's commitment to improving healthcare services across all the sub-counties.
We are presenting the state of the county address. Our
agenda on health is indisputed. There have been numerous counties, over 10, who have come to Kirinyaga County to learn what we have done. Fully automating our health facilities, ensuring our hospitals are equipped, there is medicine, all that.
Meanwhile, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has called on the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, to address the fate of 20,000 junior secondary school teachers whose contracts are ending.
Stories of no money is not part of us. Yes. They have worked for 1 year. You needed science teachers to come and put in energy in our JSS schools. Yes. And they have done that faithfully for 1 year. Yes. Their contract is coming to an end. Yes. And so far, they are worried because there is no communication, nothing from the Teacher Service Commission, and the only thing they are expecting is confirmation.
And residents and business community at Rironi town along Nairobi-Nakuru Highway are lamenting over the poor state of the social amenities and the infrastructure that is jeopardizing their sources of income.
Kukinyesha hapa, hata hapa kuna mtaro hauwezi pita. Biashara zimefirisika hapa, zimeisha, watu hawakuji kununua, mtaa yetu haigrow, it is not going anywhere. Ukiangalia ni soko yetu ilianza kujengwa 2019, watu wamejenga vibanda huku, hakunanga mahali pa kupita, hata saa hii kukinyesha hakunanga mahali ya kupita.
Elsewhere, residents from Mandera town in Kenya and the neighboring Beledhao town in Somalia held a cross-border peace and security forum aimed at strengthening cooperation that will prevent and counter violent extremism across the border region.
We have turned down a number of ideas together with our counterparts from Somalia, elders, youths and women from that side, and it has bettered with our findings and the knowledge that we exist in peace.
In Kwale County, the social organization Village Voices has launched mural paintings in the Mwabungo area. The initiative seeks to empower young people to use art as a tool for social change.
Tumefanya ile mural yenye tumeenda tukaonyesha pale, na ile mural inasimamia aswa kwenye kutangaza amani katika jamii ya sasa.
Finally, a youth lobby group dubbed Broad-Based Brigade Youths has called out on politicians to shun divisive politics and instead focus on uniting Kenyans as the country prepares for the 2027 general election.
We also want to promote dialogue between government, political parties, civil society, and grassroots youth networks. We also want to encourage accountability, transparency, equitable distribution of opportunities, especially for the youth and the marginalized groups. We also want to uphold peace, unity, respect for our democratic institutions.
Just to remind you that we're going to be having by-elections in the next coming few weeks, and we are on the ready to bring you that particular broadcast of the exercise. Now, we cross over to business, where cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya says a committee of experts on SACCO reforms has proposed amendments to the SACCO Act to ease mergers and in a bid to bring more SACCOs under regulation in efforts to protect members' deposits.
Cooperative societies with a few members and a small asset base might be forced to merge if amendments proposed by the Committee of Experts on SACCO reforms are adopted. Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya is rooting for the mergers, arguing that it will ensure more SACCOs are brought under the regulation of the SACCOs and Society Regulatory Authority (SASRA), and they create a bigger asset base to service members' needs.
If all Mwalimu SACCOs was one, because what happened, Mwalimu SACCO was one, and then now districts, when districts came up, each district now split to have its own SACCO. You go to Kisumu, you'll find the Siaya SACCO, they have their name, Walimu Uko and Jinalao.
Oparanya says smaller SACCOs are not economically viable due to their high operational costs.
The problem we have had in Kenya is that every village comes up with a SACCO, which is not even financially viable.
To help our cooperatives pool resources together and put them in banks that will give us good interest rates. Now,
In a raft of reforms, agriculture-based circles are set for stricter regulations to enhance efficiency.
Our agricultural sector is the big one, and that has been the major problem, because the agricultural sector issues of governance is a very big challenge, and I'm happy that this is being addressed in the new bill that is before the Parliament.
To sports now, the Kenya national soccer team Harambee Stars departed the country yesterday night for Atlantia, Turkey, where they're set to play 2 international friendly matches from Friday this week. Now, the national under-17 football team, on the other hand, will be in Ethiopia for the Sekafa Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers this weekend.
Harambee Stars will face Equatorial Guinea on Friday at the Emaya Complex before meeting Senegal on November 18 at the Madan Stadium. Head coach Benny McCarthy says the team, which has been training at Kasarani, is in high spirits and fully focused on securing positive results in the international friendlies, which will prepare them for competitive assignments. The matches will also test their strength against top-ranked opponent, sharpen their tactics and strengthen chemistry within the team. Meanwhile, the national under-17 soccer team, the Junior Stars, will also be away on international duty this weekend. They left today for Ethiopia, where they are scheduled to take part in the Sekafa Under-17 African Cup of Nations qualifiers starting this Saturday up to the 2nd of December. Forward Nathan Achola, who earned a spot in the head coach William Muluya's final lineup, said he's ready to give his best and help the team secure qualification for the continental tournament. Junior Stars have been placed in Group B alongside Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan and Rwanda.
It was a lot of work that was put in. Of course, we had like a week or so of training and 2 test matches. So it's just a lot of work, a lot of dedication. And making the final squad, I was so happy because it's a dream for every 17-year-old to represent their country.
We have to believe in ourselves first and try to play until the last day of the tournament. It will be an honor for us to make it to the AFCON. So whoever we are having and whichever team we have, it's upon the coaches now to try and push it more. And we are confident enough that we are going to do the job.
They will be battling for one of the 2 qualification spots available for the 2026 Under-17 African Cup of Nations.
Now that puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke for further details. And now just looking at our diary across Langata, that is in Langata, the Uhuru Gardens there, we have the 25th EAC MSME exhibition that is currently underway, starting off from the 10th all the way to the 16th. Yesterday, President William Ruto was the chief guest who officially launched that particular exhibition amid calls from member states to have standardized policies to ensure more intra-African trade that is currently pegged at 15%. The EAC, as a trading bloc, has been in place for several years. However, that particular trade, intra-trade, 15%, member states say that technology is bound to help this double, at least to 40 or 50% going forward. We'll keep tabs on that and find out what comes from there. And also, we are tracking the state of affairs in Marsabit County, where at least 2 million people are now at risk of hunger as drought tightens now across the country's arid and semi-arid regions. Other areas that we're tracking include Samburu and Isiolo counties. Talking about graft, the EACC convention is currently underway at the Safari Park here within Nairobi, and we will continue keeping track of that, with the outcomes yesterday indicating that at least annually 235 billion shillings is, transferred to offshore accounts as proceeds of illicit financial inflows. That is that, just to give you a sneak peek of how the diary this Wednesday morning looks like. For the rest of the programming, be sure to keep it here and give us a feedback on our various socials. Now I hand you over to Victor Law. We'll be back with a conversation on inclusivity when it comes to matters agriculture, focusing on women as well as youth. Over to you, Victor.
applied to go to Africa because of the fuss you caused a while back. You lost face here at the hospital. You're running away.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
You are lying. You want to go to Africa again?
I don't, Maja. Do you think I did this on purpose? That I'm just here to stalk you?
Do you think Zhang Da can't survive without you? Did you forget I'm still here doing all the work?
You know that's not what I mean.
I have to go looking for him. I'm going to look for him.
Where will you go looking for him?
To the Red Cross, to a hospital. I don't know where he needs me. Something awful must have happened to him.
That is not my role. That's yours. You have the role of the wife who loves him so much.
I love him. With all my heart. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard you well. I heard when he told you that he would come looking for you if you didn't arrive to see him. Why, Rebecca?
You'll never imagine who took me to the clinic when I felt ill. Ricardo Marquez.
Tatizo ni la pesa tu.
Nakuuliza ikiwa ni pesa, ikiwa ni nini.
Basi hizo pesa kama unazo nyingi, kinipa pia sitopata. Basi yenyewe si yangu. Utumie ukimaliza tu niregeshe.
Haijarudishwa pasi ninaiazima.
Kwanza ungetengeneza changu. Halafu sasa mtu akija kiazima ukamwazima.
Mimi mnamwazima mke wako pasi, amekuja kwangu akaja kuwazima pasi. Kisha akaichukua akaenda akaipeleka kwa jirani. Huko kwa jirani nenda fanyaje?
Lete pasi ya watu mimi nipeleke mwenyewe.
Nilipomaliza kupiga pasi Amina nikaiwekelea juu ya meza. Kuwekelea juu ya meza mtoto naye akaja akaiangusha ikavunjika.
Lipia wewe mahali kashimo na pesa za kununua pasi. Alafu hiyo pasi kwa kwenda omba ipotee.
All right, welcome back. It's now time for us to get into the viewpoint. Being the Wednesday, this is how we do it. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor. Please talk to me and all of us here at KBC, that is at KBC Channel 1 at Victor Law. Okay, so my guest already in studio. Today is the 12th day of November. If you just joined us, let's talk about matters, socio-economic issues that's affecting us in the country and how we need to resolve all of them. Okay. I have Wilson Session, who is a veteran unionist. He's also an educator. He's here. He's former member of parliament and also former nominated member of parliament and former. Your short is on air, Mheshimiwa. You're being introduced. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Again, can I take that again, Director? Yes, he's here. Wilson Session is a former NASEC Gen. He's a veteran unionist. I love that smile. Veteran unionist and educator. He's here on set. Mheshimiwa, good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And Mike Agwanda is a political analyst. He's also a man of many hats. He's going to tell us one by one how many hats he has today. Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
I call him Mickey Mouse. All right. Karibu sana, gentlemen. Let me still extend my the apology from Dr. James Nikal, Member of Parliament of Seme constituency. He called and said he has got an urgent meeting at 7 a.m. So, Mheshimiwa, apology accepted. All right, so let's take it from where we should. Let me start with the front page of the local dailies. Gentlemen, as always, on the front page of the Star, Museveni threatens war with Kenya over Indian Ocean. That is also on the front page of the Star newspaper. Museveni threatens war with Kenya over Indian Ocean. And it says that Ethiopia locked in conflict with Somalia over a similar dispute. That story is on the front page and fleshed out there for you. Continues on page 4 and page 5 if you want to go read in details. Of course, there's another story about SHA cancer cover runs dry within 6 months, and patients now protest to MPs over that. There is something people would call a pilgrimage to Bondo, where mourners and people from all over, including Uganda, still trooping to Kangoka Jaramogi to mourn the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And yesterday, Gor Mahia fans also trooped there. And as usual, they were there in their full regalia, as you can imagine. Of course, just to condole with the family. That is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Mheshimiwa Social, what do you have on the front page of the Daily Nation? Can you read for us?
Kenya strikes gold. 680 billion gold.
All right, continue. Just give us more details of that.
On the same?
Yes.
That the residents of Isul and Shangala in Kalamani, Kakamega County are on the verge of a windfall. A British firm has revealed massive gold deposits in the area and is now seeking clearance to mine the precious metal in Avenger. That promises a fortune for the investor, country, county, and local communities.
Okay. I'm told Ikolomani was coined from the word gold mine.
Yes.
I don't know how true that is. Ikolomani, gold mine. So now
like Isukuti. You know, when the drums were done,
it is good.
The Msungu said, "Oh, it's good."
It's good.
Then,
it came to Isukuti.
Then the African said, "It is called Isukuti."
What about Dagoretti Corner? Do you know where the name Dagoretti Corner came from, Mike?
No.
Mzungu said the Great Corner. This is the Great Corner. And here we are, Dagoretti Corner.
Yes.
All right. Okay, what do you have on the front page of the Standard, Mike?
The front page of the Standard says, "See, hear, no evil." And the acting CEO of Teacher Service Commission photo is right there. And it says, Kenya's largest employer of educators, the Teacher Service Commission, stands accused of turning the country's classroom into cash cows for corrupt officials. The collusion of failed officers to those at the headquarters reeks from job bribes and politicized recruitment to ethnic favoritism and stalled promotions. An EACC report paints a damning picture of rot and dysfunction inside the very body meant to safeguard teachers' welfare. As technology fails, morale plummets, and unions cry foul, the question lingers: who will teach integrity when tutors are themselves under siege?
Take it away. That headline sounds so loud.
You know, I run a school, and it's a day and boarding school. That is something I've done for years now, and quite a successful school for that reason. When I read this kind of things, and first of all, I'm looking at the acting CEO of our Teacher Service Commission. I'm saying, she's here at a bad time. This is not even where we needed to begin from. Mrs. Macharia, who has been the CEO for many, many years, perhaps needed to answer these questions. Because if you're looking at the history of just system rot in TAC, then we cannot point at anybody else other than Macharia herself, who now is retired. But then you ask yourself, how long has it taken us to get into this place? Recently, in a UDA government, I saw, for the first time in the history of this country, application forms literally being given to politicians, members of parliament. And they were going, and specifically I saw it in Rift Valley, members of parliament having application forms and announcing it in funerals, that if you want to be a teacher, come here, and then we give you the form to fill, and then you become the teacher that you want to be, or rather you get posted.
Yeah.
It was probably the lowest moment of the career, the teaching profession in this country, that many people who have been qualified for sometimes 5, 10 years and 12 years are still waiting to be absorbed within TAC. But you find a politician running around with application forms, and then when he gets some few in that funeral, he tells them right here, and they get employed immediately. While many people who genuinely deserve who have been waiting in the queue for 10, 15 years, have not been employed, but because you're connected to a politician, you get employed almost immediately, some of them after coming from college. And we're having this discussion with one of the teachers who were my friend, who waited for 10 years. And then his colleague, who is hardly a year into the profession after college, and is already employed, and they're teaching with him, with her in the same place. When did we start hawking, employment? While teaching fraternity or profession in itself has been the most adorable profession we could ever imagine of in terms of respect, integrity, dignity, and also passing knowledge to our student. When we are describing TAC as a cash cow for the teachers, that you cannot get a transfer, perhaps if you not grease the palm of provincial or regional education officer or regional director or sub-county director, you can't get a promotion if you don't know somebody. And what the people are saying on the ground is totally different from what TAC in Upper Hill is saying, because it could be a conflict. The question is, yes, we might have had the union coming out, and Sosironi is here, perhaps he will explain better, condemning some of these things. But why have we waited for too long for ESCC to come in and say, yes, this is now one of the most corrupt organizations in this country? And the question, I like what this journalist says, who will teach integrity when tutors are themselves under siege? And part of that very, very corruption that they want to teach their children against in the classroom. It is unfortunate that teaching fraternity is now offering positions at TSC for the highest bidder. A teaching fraternity has now realized that they can also cash in the teachers who want promotion. That teaching fraternity is now realizing that if you want to transfer, you must grease somebody's palm. And no wonder you realize a lot of these cases where now we are having depression, we are having mental challenges among teachers, we are having teachers who are into serious drinking, and it's because of some of this frustration that we are seeing here. I mean, when and how long do we have to wait for Macharia to be in that office for all those years? And then we still found it fine because she was able also to compromise the union. She was able to compromise the investigation officers. She was able to compromise the powerful people in the government. She was completely untouchable when she's been here. And so this lady's face is up there, and we're looking at her and we think she's the devil that we need to talk about, while Macharia should be the person we are condemning in all these things because Macharia has been here this long. But the question that you're asking yourself is, when she reigned on Teacher Service Commission and brought all this corruption, was the government looking on the other side? Was the committee in Parliament of Education looking the other side? Because they knew these things were happening. And she was so powerful and she was everywhere. I mean, she did not have respect for the union. She did not have respect for the government and anybody else. Where did she get all these powers for the education to be eroded to this extent? Where now we are saying that TSC is one of the most corrupt. Now, can only be compared because if you look at the policemen, they say they want the number one in the country every single year that an index comes out. And how do we reverse this thing? Perhaps we need to talk about that. How do we then reverse this thing? And the only way we can reverse this thing is for people to have anonymous box where they can put names and shame some of those directors and tell, the public that this individual and this individual in TSC are the ones that have been receiving bribes. And then somebody else handles it in TSC, in EACC. And then we can find solutions. But it should not continue.
Absolutely. But having a box, is that enough? Because you'll have an opinion box there, but will that be enough? Mheshimiwa Sosion, this is not something we've talked about here. We've talked about it here over and over and over and over and again. And most of the time, it finds you over there. I want us to talk about the issue to do with administrative and systematic failures when it comes to whatever we're discussing. I remember 2 weeks ago when you came on the show and we talked about the issue to do with education, you said heads must roll when it comes to education system and university leadership. That was that. But then now, when it's come to TSC and all this happening, What would you say about all this?
I think I was in that space to right the wrongs. And I became the sacrificial lamb for the cartels who were interested in dismantling the professional independence of TSC, which is envisaged under Article 237 of the Constitution. We worked hard. I was part of the leadership. And our aspiration was a very professional teaching force that is accountable to the teachers of Kenya and that has the capacity to retain the most motivated, the most well-supported, and the most productive teachers. That was the mission. But other interests came in. And the report that we're getting now are just but indicators of historical rot that has been very deliberate over time. And I think, Victor, what we may need about TSC is probably a national conference. We discuss the future of teachers and teaching in this country and bring to bear some of those things. We need some revolutionary approach, radical reorientation and reorganization of the Teacher Service Commission. Because look at countries like Korea. They've succeeded because they've retained the best teachers in the teaching system, to the extent that the best students in KCSE in Korea join teaching. So if you're the best, if you come top with A's, you join teaching. Because teaching has been made the first profession and it has attracted the best. And when you're trained as a teacher, you are taken on board immediately after training so that you grow to be a teacher. We've seen the teaching service in this country going south in every respect. And it is time we reclaim it and speak about it very, very boldly. What we need is a happy, motivated, properly recruited, well-supported teacher in every classroom. That is the intention. But if you're making teachers to bribe their way to access their rights, that fundamentally is wrong.
Okay. So, beyond the surface, what
so
is really
I don't want to believe that such stories are coming to the headlines and then in the evening, inafungiwa nyama and is forgotten. We must get to what has been brought to our attention.
What are the things brought to your attention?
What has been brought to our attention is a report.
Let me just.
And I think it's a report from an agency.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Okay.
And the media has made it a headline, right? So, as a responsible country, we must stop and ask questions.
Okay.
And
one
we must
of
stop
the reports
and find solutions.
Perhaps some of the issues being reported here is rampant corruption, where bribes demanded for jobs, promotions, and transfers, with TSC ranked among Kenya's most graft-ridden institutions. Is it so bad that TSC has to be the most corrupt institution in Kenya when integrity is supposed to be taught in the same institution?
That becomes a paradox because, you know, if an institution that is vested with the responsibility of teacher management and teachers are supposed to inculcate values, then those values must be embedded in that institution in the first place. And that is why we should have a very strict code of regulations to manage teachers, but also we must have very strict code of ethics for those managing teachers. And those ethics, we don't need to struggle and find them in papers. We should see them working. It should be felt. Everybody in the country should know that TSC is a no-go zone in terms of corruption. It's a transparent system. Things work right. And it is a reflection of the teacher we expect in the classroom. What type of a teacher do you want in class? A teacher with the highest standards of values, committed, and you can give all manner of description.
Yeah.
Corruption-free, someone who can affect the child in a positive way in terms of values, characters, and formations. How do you expect such when the institution that manages them places hurdles of corruption that actually is going to transform the character and behavior of teachers, so that eventually you have thuggish activities within the teaching force? It is not right. It's not good for the country. Even when you're talking about leaping to be the first world, the agent of moving to the first world will be education and teachers. You can't do that when there are, of course, negative stigma and issues within the teaching force. We must have the best teaching force in terms of professional capacity, values, and qualifications, and delivery. And that must be reflected at the employers.
Yeah. I'm looking at the situation where there are certain issues which TSC, is there any point that TSC can have all this to turn around? Because when we talk about teaching as a profession, these are some of the cardinal professions, and actually is a cardinal profession everywhere in the world. Because when you talk about education, you talk about a progressive society. But when you have our very own facing this kind of headline for a second day or so, these are some of the things that it has been discussed over and over and over again, Mike. And we are looking at a situation where we have so many students who are taking the same course. You talked of, when it comes to employment, some people somebody graduated just the other day and he gets into the system and is employed. Some are still outside there for 10 years. How do we turn around the entire system? Because now it means that the entire Teacher Service Commission is going to go down under the bridge.
Victor, that is just one of the roads. Let me tell you, the system of employment is completely abused in this country. We have a system that has been bedridden with a lot of nepotism and tribalism.
Yeah.
When Nancy Macharia was up there, you'll find people being employed in Central Province that are supposed to be occupying spaces in Western, in Central, the larger Central area, that are supposed to be working in Central, in Western part of the country. And then these people don't end up being transferred into the Western part of the country. They still remain this side. And so you find this skewed way of places where there are no teachers, and in places where there are too many teachers. That is one of them. And then another thing that has been happening is that sometimes you also find directors, regional directors, whether it is county directors, sub-county directors, and also other officials, TSC officials within the county and the sub-county. Unfortunately, what happens in those places is that these people make recommendations, and then after making the recommendations, it is forwarded to Nairobi. Now Nairobi makes the final decision. That final decision is not based on the recommendation that is actually made by the TSC county director or the sub-county director, who knows the schools, who knows the needs of the schools. So when they come to Nairobi, they make the decisions. While in a nutshell, when you want to make a very thorough and a system that is working and that is helping the teachers, it should be that the sub-county report is taken as it is, because these are the people on the ground and they're the eyes of TSC on the ground. And then the director of TSC within that county should be able to make some final conclusion and decisions on which schools and how many teachers need to go into these schools. For example, I have a school in Dewa, where I come from, that the teachers are not there. TSC teachers are only 3 in one of the schools there. And when there were 3, a head teacher who was a TSC teacher was also removed from the school, given a transfer. And so you have a whole school with about just 3 or 2 teachers that are, these kids literally are leaving the schools to other schools. That means the schools are getting closed. But then these reports have been made to TSC Nairobi.
Yeah.
But the TSC Nairobi is still waiting for their sweet time. Instead of employing teachers directly to teach there, they would rather employ teachers in other places. There are so many other teachers that can take care of. Their schools, some of the schools are closing in Dewa because of lack of teachers, literally. Lack of teachers. And we cannot allow this to continue because of nepotism and tribalism and because of briberism. That if you don't bribe, you'll rather not, they'd rather have the school close, but still they need the bribe. Why? We must go back to what we had before. That when the sub-county is having a meeting and relevant information has been given to them and is escalated to the county level, and the county director needs to visit some of those through his officers, need to visit some of those schools and then come up with a resolution. That is implemented by TSC Nairobi, not TSC coming back in Nairobi and telling you, oh, we still don't have this, or we're still looking into this, we are still investigating. That is why we have representation of TSC. We must have what we call bottom-up kind of system so that the people representing TSC on the ground are respected and are able to do what they're supposed to do.
It's exactly 7:30 and I want to serve Sosion some coffee.
But before?
I'll be back with that. Stay with us. Okay, we all need that coffee.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the Positive Warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا.
Kile ambacho unafanya wewe na mke wako ama wewe na mume wako, basi unatakiwa kukifanya kiwe ni baina yenu,
iwe ni siri baina ya mume na mke. Lakini mmoja wao kama ataanza kuzungumza, atamwambia fulani, mimi nimefanya na mke wangu hivi na hivi na hivi, bali ni katika tabia chafu mno. Na ile dhiki na ukupata katika maisha, usije ukatangaza ukawashtakia wanadamu.
Wazazi wa Kiislamu huchukua jukumu la kuwalea watoto kwa misingi ya imani,
Welcome back. The three of us have their cups of coffee. Gentlemen, let's continue. So, Sion, you want to say something before we took a break?
Yes. I just wanted to support his position. The spirit of devolution in governance is very clear. It means take services to the people. Even independent commissions, Judicial Service Commission, you can see they're making a lot of efforts to open courts everywhere in the country. Teacher Service Commission also should be able to take crucial services to the counties. Things to do with payrolls and things to do with HR services, things to do with promotions, and even appointments should be done at the counties. And if need be, then all teachers should be able to get their services at the counties. That means there should be thinning of human resource at the headquarters, and you have more personnel at the counties, so that then the services are promptly rendered to the teachers on time. Continued centralization of certain services, because we have seen that. Earlier on, in the previous dispensation, appointment of heads and would be done locally and quickly and fast. But when it is centralized, you create unnecessary bureaucracy, inequality, interference, and absence of transparency, which is an antithesis of the spirit and letter of Kenya Constitution, that of equity and equality and inclusion of all. So matters to do with promotion of teachers should be devolved to the counties and executed at that level. Matters to do with appointment of heads and new positions should actually be devolved to the counties and executed at that level through extensive consultation with stakeholders, so that then, because schools belong to communities and belong to the people, and therefore open and transparent processes that are above board must be executed at that level. Employment and employment of teachers should be completely devolved. Remember, when you look at UNESCO standards, teacher deployment takes into consideration cultural linguistic context because and inclusion of all tribes. While at EI, I was in charge of a problem of ensuring that ethnic minorities all over the world also have their own teachers, because we must create teachers out of ethnic minorities. If you want head teachers, you must also have head teachers out of those ethnic minorities. The inequalities of teacher deployment in this country is basically because of a bad policy. And this had been improved by previous government. If you look at recruitment to teacher training colleges, it was done at the zones on the basis of gender. You give a slot to maybe 3 males and a slot to 3 females, train them at the teacher college, training colleges. Upon graduation, take them back to those zones and deploy them to the schools. That is the UNESCO framework of teacher deployment, of which the president appended the signature to the education charter that reverted Kenya to adopt UNESCO standards of teacher deployment. It is in the education charter.
Does it worry you
and therefore, that's what needs to be done, because education must be offered through equity and everywhere and to all children in a standard manner. What we have seen, the policies that took over at TSC were driven by nepotism, corruption, and self-interest. And it was meant to exclude very many parts of the country and promote interest of certain individuals. Very deliberate, very selfish, very inhuman, and unacceptable. So to me, there is a whole lot of work to do, a lot of surgery in the architecture of TSC and the entire teaching service. And it's not going to be done in a day. It's something that must be done very deliberately, and it's going to take time, because to reverse the damages is not going to be easy. And therefore, we need very, very deliberate leadership at TSC and support from government so that we can deliver the teaching service from the bondage it was taken.
Okay. Someone is asking, will the Ministry of Education handle education if it's fully devolved, as you're saying, if the health itself kama health wameshindwa? That's the question.
I'm not talking about devolution to the county governments. Devolving services is different from devolution.
Yeah. Okay.
We should understand. The judiciary has devolved services to the grassroots, but it has not devolved this mandate to the county government. I think let's have a different, let's have a clear understanding.
Okay.
Devolution of governance from national to county governments is a different thing. Creation of county governments. But even independent institutions must have presence in the counties to deliver those services. That is what I'm talking about.
I think, where I agree with Mr. Sosyon is clear. When it comes to HR reasons, or for example, HR looks into matters of employment, it is matters of discipline, or when you're going on leave, paternity leave, maternity leave, and all those training, and all those capacity building as well. Now, why do we have to come to Nairobi? Why does somebody who is in Suba, for example,
travel all the way to Nairobi
to check whether he's in the payroll or not, and why he was not paid or not? And yet you can do it in Homa Bay or in Kuria, in Migori. I mean, why do you have to compel this teacher who is already, having debts? The guy might be earning just about 5,000 shillings per month because of his debts and some other loans. And then you are telling him, oh, there's a problem with your payroll, and you have to come all the way to Nairobi. The guy has to go into debts again to come to Nairobi. While that could have easily been done in Migori with a HR person in Migori, regularize the payroll, or if it's a discipline matter, take the discipline within the counties. You don't have to bring discipline to Nairobi. I mean, it's the people that you work with there that
could it
cause the problem.
Could it be because of the long-standing system? Because that has always been what has been there since.
That has been the norm until they change and tilted the system so that the people at the headquarters could benefit from the big bribe. Basically, that is what is happening. That is why they have to come to Nairobi to see the big boss. Because the small boss there was doing all these things and the system was running very, very well. Let's create some stampede. Let's create some importance in Nairobi, Upper Hill, and so that we are the big people. And if you can't see us, then you don't know that teachers are coming to Nairobi and sleeping on the park because they cannot afford to go to hotels. It's happening.
So, do you need to come to Nairobi to appoint and deploy a head teacher of a school?
You don't.
Do you? It has happened in the past that even head teachers were appointed at the zonal zonal offices. Well, why is it that during this era of devolution, you must bring all of them to Nairobi? There must be interest of commercial interest.
That is the question.
In the name of
perhaps that's the norm, as Mike would say it.
And that is, it is weak thinking and it is selfish interest, because the devolution and the new constitution should have taken services closer to the people at the grassroots. You don't need to execute many of the transfers teachers at the Teacher Service Commission headquarters. It can be done at the counties. Maybe the transfers that ought to be executed and appointments at the headquarters should be as related to national schools.
Mike has a problem. William, I'm sorry. Somebody's going to handle it. Apology for that. I'll come back to you. Also, so Mike, the question I want to ask you, then there should be some serious surgery. One of them is you're talking about the issue of delocalization, which you said is quite recommendable. But then the question of... Sorry?
Delocalization was an abuse of the teaching process.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay, you'll explain that to us. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Thank you. But then the question of some serious surgery to give TSC a different face altogether, because now it seems that the TSC is on some serious test.
No, TSC is becoming a bigger-than-life organization. It's no longer serving the interests of the teachers, but they're serving the interests of individuals that are working at the helm of TSC. What needs to happen, Victor, is this, that the committee, the education committee in Parliament must reign on TSC. You know, Nasim Macharia, the retired lady, for many, many years refused to promote, refused to hire for many, many years. And yet there was money. I remember there was she appeared before the committee in Parliament and I said, but we've given you the money. Why are you not promoting? Why are you not employing? And it was a terrible rebut from her that we saw, because she was just sitting on this money and did not care about the teachers at all. What needs to happen is members of Parliament need to reign on TSC. And they need to reverse some of these hardcore, kind of policies that TSC made for them to be bigger than life. For example, it's talked about previously.
Okay, in a bullet form, the surgery that should be done completely deconstruct TSC and give it a new face.
One of the things that must happen is let services be done within the county. That must be done. Let no TSC make decisions on which school needs to get which teachers and how many teachers. Let the county do it. And the sub-county do it. Promotions need to be done within the sub-counties. And the counties, they need to decide who is being promoted, because they're the people who are with these teachers every single day.
Records of their performance.
Okay? They are the ones who know the strong ones, they're the ones who know the malingering ones, they're the ones who know the ones that are not working, and they're the ones who know which one need to be promoted. Thirdly, employment needs to be localized. It needs to be regionalized. It needs to be county-wise. Why do we have people to be employed by TSC in Nairobi while they do not know the needs that are in these other places? We're talking about issues now with education, and I know we're going to come into it, where the government Minister of Education is saying, oh, this is the numbers we have are conflicting with the numbers that are in school. And you can see that it's all systemic in the sense that they know what is happening. Now the teachers are saying, look, you are the ones who are adding figures when you're in Nairobi. As we give you the real figures, them they are saying, oh, you're the ones who are manipulating the figures. This is exactly what is happening with the TSC. TSC are alleging that they're making employment for their whole country. But there are places where there are over surplus of teachers in this country. Why can't we have the counties employ according to their needs, according to their schools, instead of coming to TSC to do this? Again, we can have some little leeway when it comes to the localization of head teachers. Now, head teachers could be transferred anywhere. I don't mind about that. But how about these, promotions and these transfers and this discipline to be done within the county and sub-county levels, so that services are done quickly? How about if they transfer the HR officers to the counties, so that these people don't have to come to Nairobi? How about if they transfer the discipline aspect of it to the counties, so that these people don't have to come to Nairobi? I have a friend of mine who has not been on duty for 7 years because he's been coming to TSC, and every time he comes to TSC on discipline matter, every time he comes to TSC, oh, there's something that is happening, you need to come back again. 7 years the guy has not gone back to class. I mean, this kind of things must be stopped. But the only person that can help us here is Parliament, so that TSC do not make the rules according to the TSC CEO. Because when she comes with her own rules, or he comes with her own rules, teachers are still going to suffer. Let Parliament make serious policy on hiring, on promotion, on HR, on devolving some of the services over to their county levels, so that teachers can get the services they need, including the training.
Let's talk about the administrative burden that perhaps TSC is facing, because the Commission, for quite some time, somebody would say that have been accused of collecting more data instead of taking action to rectify some of these problems that's facing the Teacher Service Commission and the teaching fraternity.
The concept was driven by selfish interest. And when the concept of selfish interest drives conceptions of policy, you end up with bad policies, and you end up with bad programs, which hurt the teaching service. TSC never needed to discard almost all the practices that they've done over the years. They only needed to improve and devolve them to the counties, those services. TSC, in the concept of independence, interpreted independence to be authoritarian and draconian way of doing things, and recalling all the services from the grassroots to the center. And that is what was done. And including even establishing quality assurance, that is taking over some of the roles of the ministry, some of the roles of training. That is not its work. TSC's business is purely HR, is a HR institution. And if that understanding is recasted so that it is known, it is HR driven, activities should be devolved, services should be devolved to the counties, that is majorly HR, and you're able to dispense of discipline cases of teachers very fast, within, if it is you do it at the counties. You're able to expedite appointment of head teachers and those in administrative positions very fast if you do it at the counties. I still don't agree that head teachers can be delocalized. No, still within the ethno-cultural local context, you still create head teachers for those communities because they are part of that community and they ought to spearhead development of education in those communities. So still, they can be appointed in an expeditious and efficient and consultative manner. Things to do with promotion of teachers based on the quota that is given to them, that can be done by the HR at that level. And you can, and that is how to motivate the teaching force. When administrative actions that relates to HR aspects that affects their profession are expedited, then teachers will be very productive. But when it is centralized, it is confused, it is disorganized, you end up having a demotivated teaching service.
Can TSC have a different name and a different suit to be that body that people would trust and have faith in once again?
No, you really don't need to change the name. You simply change the architecture that conforms to the best practices of teacher management and a body that attracts the best and retain the best. To attract the best, you must be competitive and inspiring. To retain, you must continue sustaining the motivation and productivity of that particular worker. But when you centralize these services so that then you leave schools and you leave teachers in a lot of confusion at the grassroots, then it's a wrong thing. I think where TSC failed was to centralize services instead of decentralizing more services. In fact, there needs to be a thinner human resource at the headquarters and more at the counties, because that is where teachers are. And it's a very simple thing. Recast TSC to be purely a HR entity that deals with HR work. Because the main job of TSC is purely HR.
Thank you.
And if you improve the quality of HR services at the lower levels, then you improve the professional capacity of teachers. It is very easy. It can be done. You don't need 1 year. You need a short time and you have the things done right. But we need the goodwill, we need the understanding, and we need the leadership to do that.
When you look at that headline, Mike, and you have a student or you have a young Kenyan somewhere or you have a student who is in a teacher's college right now, does that really make that person to think of changing a career or to make TSC or teaching as one of those jobs that people probably will not want in future?
I was with a gentleman yesterday called Brian. He graduated in 2014. In 2018, he had not gotten a job. He went back to college and he decided to do IT. And then now he said, I don't want to do teaching anymore because if I have to wait to be employed for 10 years, do I really want to do this? These people are making teaching profession not a place you want to go to. And especially when you know that you'll be frustrated for many, many years before you get a job. Teaching a fraternity in this country, if you come out of college, either private schools are looking for you or government schools are looking for you very, very easily, and they'll get employed very, very quickly. The question is, why do we want to employ, or why do we want to train, and then these people abuse a lot of money for their training, and then they wait for 10, 15 years before they get employed. You know, this is a systemic problem, not just with teaching fraternity, but when you want to start bribing to get a job, when you want to start bribing to get promotion, what are you going to teach your teachers? You'll tell them that, you know, in this world, there's nothing free. You'll have to bribe your way. And that is the culture we're teaching this country. When you are looking for to become a police officer and you have to bribe 300,000, you know what that means? That means already the first day you start employment, you have a debt of 300,000 that you have to pay. You know what is in your head? If I bribe to get this job, everybody that I'm going to meet out there will have to bribe me, or I'll have to get bribe from them. If you bribe in the military and then you go there 400,000, as they say, or 300,000, and this guy knows very well that I've bribed for 300,000, immediately gets into that position, is thinking, how do I recoup back my money? The politicians are doing it. The police is doing it. The military seem to be doing it. And now you have teaching fraternity doing it. The people that are supposed to, just mold our children to be good citizens, to be men and women of integrity, of hard work, to have a promising future, and to change the culture of corruption into decongestion of corruption in this country, to look at humanity as it is. And now when you subject that individual to a loan already, because a bribe, and now he has to borrow from their circle to be able to repay the loan. You know, I was actually talking about police. There's a gentleman I met. It's a very, very funny thing. They belong to the to the police circle, and they say in the police circles, I cannot authenticate this. They said if you want a job in the police, your son wants a job in the police circle is ready to give you a loan to go and bribe for your son to get a job within the police, because then they'll join the police circle and they will be able to pay that money. You see how this is just convoluted, and it's strong in nature. We cannot subject the teachers who are preparing our next leaders in this country to be subjected to this ridicule, to this kind of corruption, that they must pay for every services, even though it is free, that they must pay for it. This is uncalled for. This needs to be reprimanded. It needs to be rolled so that the teachers can have the dignity they need. Teachers are some of the people who really love their job. So Sion was there, and I can tell you that when you meet teachers who love it, they love it whether they get nothing out of it. He wants a good promotion because he's worked hard, and then he has to pay for it. I mean, what sort of society are we getting into? TSC must be able to know that their role is to motivate teachers by paying them well, motivate teachers, by making sure that they are promoted at the right time, motivate teachers, by making sure that they have enough teachers within the schools that are lacking teachers. For example, if you need to have 10 teachers in one school and you're only having 2, you're not motivating these teachers. They're not going to work hard. In fact, they will hate TSC for compelling them to do the work that 10 people, 2 people, that 10 people are supposed to do. TSC is supposed to devolve the HR services so that they don't have to come to Nairobi. They can deal with the people they know. When they come to Nairobi here, I've lived in Upper Hill and next to TSC for many, many years. When you wake up at 6 o'clock, there are many cases when I'm running on that hill. You wake up at 5 o'clock. You find people lining up, teachers from up country with bags lining up there because they want to see somebody. They don't know. Most cases they go there and they're told, oh, the individual you're supposed to see is not here. They have to go back to Wajir. They have to go back to Moranga, wherever it is, to come back again. And at that time, their issues have not been solved. Why can't we help teachers resolve their issues and their matters within the county level? And what is absolutely necessary should be brought to Nairobi. But issues of payroll, it is the people on the ground who know these people, whether they go to work. They're the ones who are supposed to do a better job.
Okay.
And that means HR needs to be devolved.
If I don't know whether I should ask this question, but okay, let that pass. But then the question I want to ask you, Sosion, what should be the government doing to correct all the ills that we are discussing today, and perhaps to jumpstart the TAC that people should be proud of? I'm talking about the national government. When we talk about the national government, there are so many bodies around the national government.
It's actually national government, you know.
Right.
The constitutional commissions are vested in the office of the deputy president. That means all these constitutional commissions have got administrative leadership from the central government. There has to be deliberate government decisions to reduce surgery on teacher service commission and repackage it to meet the constitutional expectations and the aspirations of the teachers and the people of Kenya. That needs to be done. It is not a body that exists outside the armpits of government. It exists within the armpits of government. And there must be directional leadership from the national government on what TSC should be able to do. We've seen the judiciary. They've worked on their programs of devolving services, ensuring that there is expeditious delivery of justice, and you can count the milestones of what the judiciary has done. And it's still an institution, an entity within the governance of this country. So Teacher Service Commission operates within the entity of the executive arm, because the services are within the executive operations of the arm of government. So there has to be that directional leadership. And if need be, because we are a country of public participation under Article 10, to me, I would recommend, can we as a country
can we take a break?
Have a national conversation
Let's take a break.
on the future of the teaching service and TSC, a national conference.
Let's take a break.
And we can have
talk about
recommendations.
Social, I have the constitution here. We can open it. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. This is interesting.
For him. I'm going to look for him.
Where will you go looking for him?
To the Red Cross, to a hospital. I don't know where he needs me. Something awful must have happened to him.
That is not my role. That's yours. You have the role of the wife who loves him so much.
I love him with all my heart.
I don't know what you're talking about. I heard you well. I heard when he told you that he would come looking for you if you didn't arrive to see him. Why, Rebecca?
You'll never imagine who took me to the clinic when I felt ill. Ricardo Marquez.
You applied to go to Africa because of the fuss you caused a while back. You lost face here at the hospital. You're running away.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
You are lying. You want to go to Africa again?
I don't, Maja. Do you think I did this on purpose? That I'm just here to stalk you?
Do you think Zhang Da can't survive without you? Did you forget I'm still here doing all the work?
You know that's not what I mean.
Je, wewe ni mpenda soka? Na je, wajua kuwa KBC mwenzio wako wa dhati michezoni anakujali? Ndio maana KBC Channel 1 hukuletea taarifa na uchambuzi wa soka.
CAF ndio wamechukua usukani
humu nchini, barani Afrika na ugaibuni, ikiwemo EPL, Serie A, Bundesliga na ligi zingine. Mashabiki pia hutuzwa kwa kujibu maswali kuhusiana na soka.
swali letu la leo.
Haya yote ni kwenye kipindi cha Dunda Dunda kwenye KBC Channel 1 kila Ijumaa kuanzia saa 5 asubuhi hadi saa 6:30 mchana.
Nawahimiza Wakenya waendelee watch Dunda Dunda show.
KBC, mwenzio wa dhati michezoni.
Kila mwisho wa juma hapa katika runinga yako ya KBC Channel 1 tunakuletea Mkulima.
Mkulima ni kipindi cha kila mtu, mkulima mdogo, mkubwa, mnunuzi, muuzaji na pia anayenuia kuanza kilimo.
Kuanzia kwa mbinu bora na za kisasa za kilimo, ufugaji,
kukupa fursa za biashara, kuongeza thamana hadi teknolojia zinazorahisisha kilimo.
Mkulima Kisasa inakupa wewe maarifa, motisha na suluhu za kukuza mazao,
kuongeza kipato na pia kulisha taifa kwa jumla.
Tunafeed nchi, tunafeed watoto wetu na tunafeed Europa na tunaweka pesa mfukoni.
Tazama Mkulima kila Jumamosi saa 10:30
kwenye runinga ya taifa.
Mkulima, tuko hapa kwa ajili yako,
ambapo fursa na kilimo zinapatana.
So let's just finish this discussion. Very good. Now, I know that's one of the professions that is considered to be the ideal when you talk about professions under the sun. That is one of them. So a quick one, Mike. No, sorry, it was Sosion. You are saying something before we continue. But then, as your closing remarks, we need you saying what the government should do, the national government, and Article 10 of the Constitution. Go ahead.
Yeah, Article 10, national values and principles of governance. And I think generally what TSC has been accused of is gross violation. It constitutes gross violation of Article 10, because when you look at Article 10, 2C, talks about good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. And also it includes public participation, the participation of the citizens. Yeah, when all these institutions were created, even under Chapter 15, they are supposed to conform strictly to the provisions of the Constitution. But you cannot take them away from the public. Decisions are taken with exclusion of the public. That is wrong. It's unconstitutional. Decisions are personalized. Services that have been existing at the grassroots for a long time are recalled and centralized. That's an antithesis, unconstitutional. So it is, TSC has been doing the opposite of what Judicial Service Commission is doing. Judicial Service Commission is trying to devolve services and expedite the delivery of justice. But what TSC has done is to centralize services, recall some of the devolved services, and diminish its role as HR, and try to engage in other roles of the ministries and other agencies, which is wrong. So it has too much that it cannot do, and therefore it ends up violating the provisions of the Constitution. And for me, I've recommended we need a new conversation. And when I talk of a national conference, it's the highest level of public participation. And the people who attend a national conference, say of the teaching services, will be the teacher trainers in the teacher training colleges, will be the universities that train teachers, will be the experts, and will be the who is who in the teaching profession, up to even and including UNESCO and government, so that then we can have a robust conversation, and we have resolutions and a framework of action on how to recast the architecture and operation of Teacher Service Commission.
Thank you.
And to me, TSC should revert to its HR role purely. Matters to do with training and quality assurance is a business of other entities. And then all these services should be devolved to the grassroots.
Very good. Let's give Mike 1 minute to finalize
up to even including pension. That your pension file can be processed expeditiously and you are able to access your pension when a teacher retires within a short time. The short of it is, what is it that we can do to dignify teaching and make teaching in this country the first profession that attracts the best and retain the best and gives the value in terms of quality teaching.
Mike, atumalizie. To turn around everything and give it a new face once and for all, once again, if possible.
Well, one of the things I want to say is I know TSC is looking for the CEO because whoever they have now is not substantive and it is acting. I know a number of people have applied for this position. And I think the applications and the names are with the president. I pray that the president will make an appointment as soon as he can, so that this place is not going to, doesn't continue having somebody who's not substantive and is not able to make decisions as fast as they can be made. I pray that this individual will not be part of the cartel that has been in the TSC. This lady that is acting, in my view, is just part of the cartel that has been in TSC. And if we get somebody fresh from outside that will look at this matter in a manner likely to change the way the operationalization of TSC is taking place and also bring it closer to the people and bring sanity in terms of employment, bring sanity in terms of getting the real data and responding to those data. Because collecting the data and responding to the data are two different things. I think that would be very, very important. And I pray that it will also be an individual that will not be like many other people that say very, very nice things as we sit here. And then once they get into those positions, then, power comes and then it corrupts. It absolutely corrupts. And I wish Mr. Sosiong the best. I know he's one of the applicants in the position of CEO. I know Dr. Juan. I know. This is in public. It's in public domain. It's not a secret. I know Dr. Juan is part of it. I wish him well in this. But let's pray that we get some changes that will be benefiting the teachers in this country. And I think that will be very, very important because the teachers are suffering and we cannot continue watching them suffering without talking about it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining us. Wilson Sossion, veteran unionist and educator. Asante sana for joining us. And Michael Lagwanda, he's an analyst. He wears many hats. Thank you so much. I didn't know you're so passionate about education like this. We've always been talking about politics.
Not education, teaching. He has
a lot of interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a break. And we come back. Regina Manyari is going to be taking issue with women's leadership and inclusive growth. An interesting discussion there. Stay with us. I'm Victor Lo.
Professor Githu Muigai's legal training was boosted when upon graduating from the University of Nairobi in 1983. He joined the Columbia Law School where he earned masters in law. Upon returning to Kenya, he taught at the University of Nairobi, rapidly establishing himself as an authoritative scholar, consultant and practitioner. He was a legend at the Parkland's Law Faculty, where students regarded him as an erudite, articulate, opinionated, and charismatic. Professor Muigai is a founding partner at Mohammed Muigai LLP, where his prowess was undisputed. As his professional stature rose to commanding heights, he found himself drawn to public affairs locally and globally. In 2000, he was selected to the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, a panel tasked with delivering Kenya's first attempt at a fundamental constitutional overhaul. After his appointment to CKRC, he went on to earn a PhD in law in November 2002. In 2008, he was appointed a United Nations Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of racism, xenophobia, racial discrimination, and related forms of intolerance. He also served a term as a judge of the East Africa Court of Justice between 2008 and 2010. He was appointed Attorney General by President Mwai Kibaki in August 2011, following the retirement of Amos Worker, who had served for 2 decades. Professor Muigai continued to serve as the Attorney General under President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration after the 2013 general election. He resigned in February 2018, citing a desire to return to private practice and academia. He is listed in major international arbitration institutions as a member of the Permanent Court Arbitration, a member of the London Court of International Arbitration Africa Users Council, among others. His focus in recent years has been strongly on international arbitration and dispute resolution rather than direct public office. Jackie Wimbiru, The Cabinet.
Amason Jeffrey Kingi was born in 1974 in Kilifi. Amason Jeffrey Kingi was born in 1974 in Kilifi. In 1980, he was enrolled at Magarini Primary School. He joined Alliance High School for his secondary education. He left Alliance in 1992 and was admitted to the University of Nairobi in 1994, graduating 4 years later with a law degree. Upon graduation, followed by a pupillage stint, Kingi went into private practice in Mombasa. While in Mombasa, he took a short contract as district coordinator for the Kilifi district, working for the Constitution of Kenya Reform Commission. This experience with the CKRC and his legal background exposed him to effective community mobilization and public awareness campaign strategies in the entire district. The 2007 polls served as Kingi's debut into politics where he successfully contested the Magarini constituency seat in Kilifi district, now Kilifi County, on an ODM ticket. Kingi joined the cabinet in 2008 as a member of the Government of National Unity. He was 33-year-old when he plunged into politics. Soft-spoken and eloquent, the young advocate became the Minister for East African Community Affairs. His legal acuity, party loyalty, and great negotiating tactics proved to be solid political assets. In March 2009, he called for equity and regional ownership of the EAC through the decentralization of some of the community's organs, such as the East African Legislative Assembly and the East African Court of Justice. In August 2010, President Kibaki reshuffled the coalition cabinet. Kingi moved to the Ministry of Fisheries Development. With the dawn of a new constitution, Kingi's political star continued to shine as he vied for governor in the 2013 general election and won. He became Kilifi County's first governor and was subsequently re-elected in 2017. Ahead of the 2022 general election, he founded the Pamoja African Alliance Party, which later joined the United Democratic Alliance, Ford Kenya, the Amani National Congress, and other small parties to form the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, which was elected into government in the 2022 Kenya general election. In September 8, 2022, he was elected as the Senate Speaker. Jackie Wambiru, the Cabinet.
But nonetheless, it's Wednesday and we're going to be focusing on what women are doing to challenge the core, especially in a sector that means you and I get to survive. We're talking about the agriculture sector. If you do not have food on the table, well, you might as well perish. There are those who believe either you live to eat or live to eat or eat to live. Whichever comes first, it depends on where you're seated. But now the conversation is, what are women doing in this particular space? Joining us this morning is none other than the CEO of Haifa International. That is Madam Surita Sandosham, right?
Correct.
Thank you, I got that right. I was worried about that particular pronunciation. Thank you for making time to join us this morning. Now, we've already had the statistics. We have seen what is happening is that the agriculture sector is shifting quite fast, you know, from traditional smallholder to tech-driven business. So what makes this particular moment, you know, a turning point for Kenya's food and farming scope?
So thank you for inviting me here today. And at Heifer International, we work to end hunger, poverty, while caring for the earth. And we are in 9 countries here on the African continent. We've been here for 50 years. And we work with smallholder farmer families. And about 60% of our farmers are women. And their participation cannot be thought of as an afterthought. They are part of the food system, they are producers. And the way that Heifer works with them is to not think about them as beneficiaries, but as partners to become producers, to in fact have an impact on the food system. So when you think about engaging with them, empowering them, creating agency, and making sure that their agri-businesses, which is through value chains, either livestock or crops, and thinking about climate smart practices, you will see that they're, in supporting them, the yields will increase by 30%. Wow. And our job is to ensure that we are focusing on reducing structural barriers, thinking about the cultural barriers that women face, and we're also making sure that we're focusing on youth who grow up on these farms where their families don't want them to be part of the farming communities. But the way that we approach youth and to think about them as a dividend for the population in the countries that they live in is to think about technology and to utilize their innovation and their creativity around technology.
All right. Before we bring in the question about the youth, let's go back to those issues that you have highlighted. The structural and cultural barriers that keep women from fully taking their place in the agriculture value chain. In your years of operations, what has changed, in the last 10 years that we have been pushing for affirmative action across all sectors?
So we've been in existence for over 80 years, and it's been a really hard slog to put and ensure that women are not thought of as an afterthought. And the structural barriers are about land rights, they're about access to finance and credit, the kinds of things that, men are privileged to get, right? And what we've been able to show with our partners like FAO and other UN agencies and local communities who do research on women is if you put them in the center, productivity will increase. And that's what we can show in all of the countries that we're in. We work with women in Senegal, we work with women in Kenya, in Rwanda, and you just have to provide them with their assets. They change their assets into profitability through their value chains. And what happens is they secure, an ecosystem for their families, and they are seen as producers. The issue about the cultural norms is to get people to understand that they're not beneficiaries. They're architects of the agricultural, global system. And we understand that 40% of women make up the labor force in the globe. And so focusing on them, making sure that they're in the center, providing them with the ecosystem, the support of the ecosystem, which at the end of the day, right, you have to recognize it's about access to finance, it's about technical knowledge, it's about mentoring, it's about networking, and it's about ensuring that they have agency and voice, and they get into leadership roles that will impact agricultural policies. And what we know is these policies have to be women-friendly. And the only way they can be women-friendly is if you actually pay attention to them.
If you focus on the women.
Correct.
Right. Now, we have seen different models that have been, or rather in practice, I think in those two countries that you've mentioned, Rwanda and Senegal, especially with addressing the issue of land ownership, that women are coming together and leasing land, as a group, as a cooperative, as a society, so that then they can, overcome the barrier of structural ownership, because you have to own the land, either rent or buy.
Yeah, right.
So is that a model that can actually work within our Kenyan scope, looking at over 80% of our agriculture rather is small holdings? How can we break that barrier?
It is working. So we have a partnership with the government. We have programs here that focus on livestock marketing and resilience. It's focusing on livestock, horticulture, and other value chains. And the holistic methodology, which is you create self-help groups, it creates agency, they have savings and loans, they use those savings and loans towards their value chain. Our approach is to partner with them to ensure that they have the knowledge and the wherewithal to address the value chain so that it becomes profitable. We're thinking about the whole system. We're thinking about there has to be a market for their value chain. They have to know how to engage in that market. They have to have credit. And so when they graduate, which they do, from being self-help groups to cooperatives, we want to encourage and help them take leadership roles in the co-ops, because when women lead, everyone succeeds, right? Their families, their communities, and the population that they're serving. And we've been doing this for a long time in Kenya. I want to say one other thing. We believe in partnerships. So heifer by ourselves can't make the change. We have to partner with the women, the farmers, the cooperatives. The government also has projects, right? They have a bottom-up project, I think, or a bottom-up approach for smallholder farmers. They are part of the economic growth. So when we partner with government, we ensure that there's scale and there's sustainability. The thing about us is you can't do this with women unless you provide a foundation to create the agency and the voice that they need. And we have, you know, we already have that evidence in
so
the
the model is working. So pulling together actually brings together more women to the fore and sits in that particular value chain. Now, there's also that other demographic, that is the youth. Over the years, agriculture has been deemed, you know, a practice that is only for the old people, the people who own the land, our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers. It's no longer you know, it's no longer the thing, especially among the youth. So then how do you recommend, or how do you think we need to go about it to, you know, integrate innovation to have the youth come on board? Because at the end of the day, as we say, the future is green, the future is with the youth.
Yes, and so the youth are part of the communities that we work with, right?
Right.
We don't work with just individual farmers, we work with farming communities. And many of this youth that you're talking about have grown up on these farms. And if you understand what their families want for them, they want a better future. They don't want it to be the hard work of farming. However, farming actually is pretty sexy if you think about the value chains that we think about. It's not just about, you know, growing the crop. It's also about thinking about the whole chain, right? You've been thinking about marketing, thinking about what kind of apps can support, right, the full value chain. And so at Heifer, we've created a program around agricultural youth entrepreneurship. And we are looking at youth who are already out there, who are already innovating, who are doing different things on the farms, and they're testing this out. And we're providing them with capital, we're providing them with mentorship, we're providing them with networks. And we have been doing this in our 9 countries, and we also have a regional competition. Again, I want to just say that we partner with, you know, the African food systems, because there are all of these young entrepreneurs out there, and what we want to do is make sure that we're creating a platform for them to succeed. And I think the thing that youth do well, because they do come from farms, they actually understand, right, the ground in which they're working in. And our job is to walk with them and support them and provide the mentoring, you know, support that they need. And can I just say one other thing? We actually have I just wanted to say, right, we're seeking the next generation of the agritech entrepreneurs from Kenya.
All right.
And just this year, there was a young Kenyan woman, Caroline Mwangi, who's the founder of Kimplanta Seedlings and Nurseries, who was the winner of the Ayute Africa Next Gen Challenge.
So basically, we are using tech to bring in the youth on board. And
yes,
it's working.
And it's working, and we just had a Kenyan woman win this year.
This year's
Caroline,
cohort.
yeah, Caroline Mwangi.
Congratulations to Caroline. Now, Sarita, there's a question of climate change. Currently, we are looking at around 2 million people who are staring at hunger and starvation in the counties of Samburu, Isiolo, and Marsabit. This is a fact. So, what practical climate-smart solutions are helping, you know, Kenyan smallholder farmers especially, you know, stay productive from where you sit as an export?
Yeah, so thinking about the environment is critical. For us, right, we're ending hunger and poverty, but we're not just thinking about the people. We're thinking about the planet. And so caring for the earth is very critical. And one of the things I think people forget is our farmers have been on their land for generations. They actually have indigenous knowledge about how to keep their land going on for generations to come. And so our job is to provide support around what are the new technologies around climate smart agriculture, and to support them in terms of the work that they're doing with their livestock or their crops, and to ensure biodiversity. And one of the things that we think is really important is to think about agriculture from a regenerative perspective.
All right,
that you're
regenerative
thinking,
perspective. All right.
And so that's all part and parcel of the way that we work with our farmers.
All right. There's a debate that we've been having for years now within this particular space, and this is GMOs. So where do they come in, you know, from a professional perspective? I'd want to hear your opinion. Now that we find ourselves here, is this one of the ways we can actually ensure that we're food secure?
So it is, and it clearly has shown that through the Green Revolution.
Yeah.
However, we've also seen, right, that the Green Revolution has created a huge divide. And the farmers that we are working with are the most vulnerable. You talked about, you know, the counties, right?
Yeah.
They're the vulnerable and they're subsistence farmers.
Yeah.
And our job is to move them from subsistence farmers to sustainable farmers who are thriving and resilient. And in that spectrum, we're talking about using technology that's more indigenous, right? And we have to support them with the kinds of seeds that are, you know, not going to be too expensive so that they can ensure that they have higher yields in their crops. So it's not, you know, our perspective is to focus on the most vulnerable in the most rural areas.
Now, I want to keenly focus on the assaults because, I mean, we have had perennial drought and it's perennial. It's the high time we address. We're in the 21st century and we have technological innovation. Is there hope? You know, there's this question that we always ask. If we were to focus on irrigation in these particular areas, we have seen it work in West Pokot. What other ways can we ensure that these vast lands within the ISLs actually are more productive and sustainable going forward in light of the current challenges that we're having?
Yeah, so I think you can't just focus on irrigation. I think
what else do we need to focus on?
I think you need to focus on the land.
The land
you
itself?
need to focus on soil. You need to focus on irrigation. You need to focus on wastage. You need to focus on all these different things. You need to focus on the fodder that you're feeding your livestock. You have to take a holistic view, right? And you have to think about it not from today, but what is the productivity that's likely to happen over time and that span. And that's our approach, taking a holistic approach to working with the farmers around that. And then thinking about renewable energy, thinking about what is easy, right, and affordable for our farmers. The other thing is insurance is really important.
The question of insurance, we've seen a couple of, you know, livestock farmers or herders have lost quite the vast number of animals during this drought season, and yet insurance remains, you know, something that we don't like to touch, we don't like to talk about it. It looks so alien, but we only think about it when we're staring at losses.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
how do you change that?
Well, so I think that's the issue, that's the problem, thinking about it when
it happens.
Yeah. And so for us, if you take a holistic approach, you're thinking that through, and you know these things are going to happen, right, because of climate change, because of these kinds of shocks. So our approach is we've got to think about how do our farming families remain resilient and how do they thrive. Insurance has got to be critical in all of this. Affordability is a huge issue. So if you think about the self-help groups graduating into cooperatives, the co-ops, right, are supporting their members. And that will help, right, in that story about the livestock. If you're part of a co-op that has an excellent governance leadership, you're actually thinking this through for your membership. And that's a really important piece. So we rely on that kind of structure, which is about thinking about the ecosystem.
All right. Now, let's talk about Africa and global linkages, looking at agriculture everywhere is being reshaped by technology, especially artificial intelligence, robotics, and sustainability standards. Madam Surita, how is Africa, and Kenya in particular, yes, positioning itself, you know, within those global shifts in food production? Are we ready yet, or are we still chasing the bus that has already left?
Well, I just mentioned Caroline Mwangi,
yes,
who just won the UTE prize. We have many of those prize winners in the countries that we work in. And in Kenya, I don't think you're behind. I think if you think about the youth that you have, they are very much a dividend, not a burden. And the issue is, how do you support them to ensure that their innovations take hold? That's all they're missing. What they're missing is credit, they're missing finance, they're missing mentorship. So we can't talk about, well, let's help the youth. You got to create an ecosystem that supports them. And most importantly, you need to listen to them, because they actually know, right? And they're the future. We talk about them being the future. The future is now. They'll tell you that. That's what I've heard in every single competition I've attended in the countries that we're in. It's very exciting to hear from them, and I don't think Kenya is behind at all.
We are in the space. The question is, what do we do about it? How do we take advantage of what we already have as a resource? Now, looking forward maybe to 2040, what must Kenya, and Africa get right today, to build a resilient, competitive, and globally relevant food system?
So I think it needs to pay attention to the farmers that are its producers. And it needs to understand the ecosystem that the country is facing. And I'm only talking about it from, the fact that we are an INGO, right, that's been around 81 years, working in 19 countries. And what we've realized is that if you can provide a platform for our farmers to have a voice in the agricultural policies so that they're part of the economic driver with the government, it will change things. You can't see them as beneficiaries. You have to see them as participants. And that is happening in pockets. And I think the government is very keen on, engaging. So I think for us, working very closely with the government and other private sector and other INGOs and other multilaterals in the space, the World Bank's got something out right now on AgriConnect. They're looking at creating more jobs, right? But they recognize they have to start with smallholder farmer families. And so partnering with organizations like us, other local organizations in Kenya, working with the government, you're set for 2040.
But you've got ground up.
Ground up. Now, focusing on the farmers, though, and listening to them.
There was a project that the government had laid out, I think, in the last financial year, and this was the subsidy program. The seeds subsidy program. It also included the subsidy program on fertilizer. Basically, just tackling farm inputs. There are those who criticized that particular program, saying the issue is, how do we access this? How do we know that this is actually genuine fertilizer? How do we actually know that this, are the right seeds that you're supplying? There was a lot of, gaps, especially in the information space. As a person, or rather as an entity within this particular value chain, such programs, would they change, the way we look at matters of food systems? And also thinking that right now, we do not have extension services. They're no longer part of the national government. They have been left to the counties, and it does not exist. That is the kind of ecosystem I'm sure that you're dealing with. How do we address that as we bring this to a close?
Well, again, I think it's interesting you talk about the fact that there's no extension system. Think about the jobs that extension systems create.
Yeah.
Who would step into those extension systems? Young people, right, who have knowledge about the kind of inputs for the farming communities. I think, to me, right, it's not, farmers need to make decisions. They should have choice. And extension systems can be created by local communities. And how have they survived so far? And so if we think about bringing all of the partners who are in that landscape together, we can ensure, right, that it will lead to the productivity, it will lead to farmers being more resilient and thriving in this kind of climate, which is full of shocks. But it will also lead to ensuring that there's no issues around food insecurity. And so we think that that's the way to partner.
All right. Very well said. We bring this to a close. The conversation and the word, or rather what I've heard from our guest this morning, who's none other than the CEO of Haifa International, that is Surita Sandosham, is that we need to work together, not in silos, but to create synergies all the way from the ground. That is the smallholder farmer, to include the government as well as other non-government organizations that are working with the farmers on ground. And the future is tech, and women also need to be part of this particular conversation. That farmers, especially women, are not just beneficiaries, but they're also part and parcel of the production value chain. This brings us to a close this morning when we talk about women challenging the status quo. And as they say, would want to say this, the future is female, isn't it?
It is. Thank you very much, Regina.
You're most welcome. I'll leave in the capable hands of my colleague Victor Lot to take you through the rest of the programming. Do keep it right here. We appreciate your feedback. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1.
recently.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
A new era has come to KBC Channel 1 TV on your favorite gospel show, The Backyard, with me, DJ Tabs, as we introduce to you our new host, the one and only award-winning gospel artist, pioneer, Mr. Big Deal, Mr. General, the one and only.
Yes, man, I go by the name Hope Kid the General, Mr. Big Deal, new school dancehall pioneer, and I'm humbled to be your amazing host from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. each and every Saturday with DJ Tabs, the head girl, and we'll be having amazing conversation with some of the leading guest line here on this show.
Join us
each and every Saturday.
I have to go looking for him. I'm going to look for him.
Where will you go looking for him?
To the Red Cross, to a hospital. I don't know where he needs me. Something awful must have happened to him.
That is not my role. That's yours. You have the role of the wife who loves him so much.
I love him. With all my heart. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard you well. I heard when he told you that he would come looking for you if you didn't arrive to see him. Why, Rebecca?
You'll never imagine who took me to the clinic when I felt ill. Ricardo Marquez.
You applied to go to Africa because of the fuss you caused a while back. You lost face here at the hospital. You're running away.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
You are lying. You want to go to Africa again?
I don't, Maja. Do you think I did this on purpose? That I'm just here to stalk you?
Do you think Zhang Da can't survive without you? Did you forget I'm still here doing all the work?
You know that's not what I mean.
وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا.
Kile ambacho unafanya wewe na mke wako ama wewe na mume wako, basi unatakiwa ukifanya kiwe ni baina yenu,
iwe ni siri baina ya mume na mke. Lakini mmoja wao kama ataanza kuzungumza, atamwambia fulani, mimi nimefanya na mke wangu hivi na hivi na hivi, bali ni katika tabia chafu mno. Na ile dhiki na ukupata katika maisha, usije ukatangaza ukawashtakia wanadamu.
Wazazi wa Kiislamu huchukua jukumu la kuwalea watoto kwa misingi ya imani,
All right, and welcome back. Now, let's talk about issue with values. Now, when you talk about values and integrity, what actually rings through your mind? That's the question I want to ask you. When you talk about values and integrity, what actually rings through your mind? We talk about the values of Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, which is quite pivotal in every aspect of our economy, and you as an individual, we have to abide by it. So today I have Edward Nyongesa, who is the Directorate of National Cohesion and Values, State Department for National Government Coordination, Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Let's talk about national values and why all of us must have that as a cap that we need to wear each and every day, right? Good morning. Good morning, Vita. Karibu sana. Thank you for having me. Karibu sana. Do you have integrity? Let me start from there.
Yes, you can only preach what you have.
Right.
Yes.
What's the pimometer? I remember the late Kotino Kajwang, senator, used to say we have pimometer. Pimometer is the measure.
The passionometer.
The passionometer. So what is your rate of value? Because you cannot preach what you really don't have. So let's start from there.
When we talk about values, we are talking about the conduct. We are talking about the principles. We are talking about the tenets that one holds as the minimum guide to the way they behave, the choices they make, and the things they engage themselves in. Because what you believe in is what will determine the choices that one makes in life. So we are talking about your conduct. That's what values are about.
Yeah. But actually, it has also caught many people off guard. Anytime it's under the Constitution of Kenya that many people probably are not aware of, or they're aware of it, but they assume that things are just going to go to work on their own or as per whatever they want. But come to think of it, it's one of the key and backbone and the skeleton of our constitution and the guiding principles of our everyday life as Kenyans.
Yes. I think this can be forgiven of them, but not so much. Why? Because we gave ourselves the national values in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Before then, I think we went along with the life as assuming that we will attribute or turn out to be good citizens. But our experiences in the years in the run-up to 2010 proved the fact that our society was lacking in the basic tenets. And that's why when we reviewed our constitution in 2010, we prescribed for ourselves the kind of outlook we want to give. And when you look at the values in Article 10, they seem to direct us or just to express the vision of what kind of society we wanted to give ourselves. Beginning from the kind of citizen we ought to be. Some of the values direct us to the creation of a national identity. When we talk about patriotism, national unity, we talk about the rule of law, we talk about the values of sharing, which are basically a part of our African cultural engagement. Born from the various societies, the various faiths that we have in our country, all these ones point to the aspiration of Kenyans to be as citizens that eschew patriotism. We love our country, and because we do so, we are willing to work with each other. And then the spirit of sharing and devolution, which is Ubuntu, the African spirit of I am because we are. And therefore we do things for the welfare, we mind each other's welfare. Again, when you look at the other sets of values, they talk about the protection of the Bill of Rights. Just how do we relate with one another in terms of human dignity, in terms of protecting the human rights, in terms of inclusivity, non-discrimination. How should the state relate to its citizens? So the values, again, give us a framework in which we need to nurture one another, protect one another, and make everybody feel that they are part of this society and have a right to exist.
How solid is this Article 10 specifically?
Very solid. I would say very solid because among the provisions of the Constitution, this one is protected. You cannot, Parliament cannot amend it and it takes effect. It takes a referendum. I think that is as much weight as it is that was put to it. For it to be altered, any of the values listed in that section can only be varied with the consent of Kenyans. Otherwise, it is solid and it binds. In fact, it says they bind all of us.
You cannot legislate patriotism.
Yes.
You cannot legislate integrity.
That is how society should enforce.
Yes.
I want to make a comparison. In Article 232, when we gave the values and principles of public service, because this is a system, this is a government, how it works. There is a rider that Parliament will enact legislation to give full effect to those values and principles of public service. But the values and principles in Article 10 do not have a requirement for legislation because they should be self-regulating. When we conduct ourselves, society fully embraced in national values, it should be able to regulate the people who sit because the Constitution says these are our values and principles of governance. That means they are the behavior, they guide the behavior of individuals, but also they guide the conduct of persons that we have given responsibility to sit in places of governance, how they should execute the duties and mandates of their offices. They should be guided by those same principles that we gave ourselves. And so the society, when it's fully embraced of our values, is supposed to check, because if we are all driven by values, then we will be choosing our leaders on the basis of the values as the marking scheme. When people present themselves to be elected to office, what should be our point of separation between the 3, 4, 5 candidates?
Yes.
It should be who most demonstrates values and who, given an opportunity to sit in that place of responsibility, will develop, will help us realize what we gave ourselves in the Constitution.
Do you feel that there's a point where this same article is being abused?
Quite a lot. Quite a lot, and it's regrettably so, because just look at the papers every day. You find the headlines about scandals, you find newspaper information about people killing each other, moral decadence. I think there's quite a lot that goes against what we gave ourselves in society. And that is why it is a challenge for all of us in order for us to transform ourselves. And I don't beat ourselves too hard, because like I said earlier, we gave ourselves these values and principles in 2010. And it's going to take a process, it's going to take the concerted effort of all of us, it's going to take discipline over the leadership for us to transform ourselves to become what we prescribed for ourselves in the Constitution.
Well, it's being abused, but we also have existing legal framework to protect it as well.
Indeed.
But at the same time, you all have people trying to maneuver and, circumnavigate around it and just have that Article 10 put under the table and they get away with it.
I think what gives me comfort is our legislative arm. We have seen very many cases at people being prosecuted. A number of governors, we have seen a number of office holders who have gone before the law and have been found guilty of having violated the provisions of Article 10 on values and principles of governance. I think this is part of the process, and that, like we say in law, this is a lesson for others. And therefore we hope that this lesson will be learned by others, and as we go by, such cases will reduce as we continue to enforce. And I want to urge the legislature to continue enforcing and continue basing the judgment. But it will take society again, because there's a caution on that. In order to successfully prosecute violations, there must be mitigating evidence, and there must be witnesses. The society must be willing to come forth and say, no, something is happening here which is not in order. So society must rise up and report, must rise up and provide evidence, must support the law enforcement, so that indeed we can rid ourselves of all manners of violation of the values and principles of ourselves.
It's quite interesting, because what really, as a directorate, what really made you have that sleepless night that day? Say, wait a minute, we want to have Article 10 being enacted from where it is in the Constitution, and we need to percolate it down to the younger generation.
Our task at the directorate is actually to coordinate the implementation, because in order for these values to be realized, it will take society. It will take various stakeholders to do so. So our bit is to coordinate the work and contribution of each sector, so that we see that everybody is doing their bit. Among the things we do is to facilitate the president reporting on measures taken and progress achieved in realization of national values and principles of governance. So what we do is to build capacity, and we are engaged in the process of facilitating stakeholders to be able to play their part. We will be happy to note that we have a national policy, which is sessional paper number 8 of 2013 on national values and principles of governance. That policy has prescribed what each segment ought to do. But of importance is that it has identified what we call values drivers and drivers of national values. And among the values drivers are supposed to be the family, which is the basic tenet of society, the basic unit of socialization for children when they grow up. And therefore, we are at the directorate working with stakeholders to build the capacity of the family, to be able to play their role as a socialization agent so that children grow up in the context of national values and they're able to know who we aspire to be and to be able to practice and come out with values that will epitomize the society that we envisage for ourselves.
Yes. So that's the reason why you started to have an initiative to actually nurturing national values among youth and children of this country. How did that come about?
Yes, I think like I said, we are working with stakeholders.
Yes.
And key among them is the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD, the institute responsible for the curriculum and content that goes on in school. We have other stakeholders, and it emanated from the analysis of the competence-based curriculum that is being implemented currently in our schools. I think we are heading to grade 10 in the next year. There is the aspect of values-based education that has been introduced, which has simplified the values in Article 10 to the point at the level where the students, the young kids can articulate and impress these values as they grow. So at every level they have provided learning experiences and material that students engage with while in school that will nurture values. But we noted a gap that while the students go home, the experiences that obtain at home, and you will note that now we are in the long holiday until January, the experiences that children find at home does not reinforce the values-based education that have gained at home.
Let's take a break.
Yes.
I love this discussion. That was so creative of you. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want us to get deeper into it and how it's going to change the entire body of our nation when we take charge of Article 10 of the Constitution, and why specifically Article 10. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You applied to go to Africa because of the fuss you caused a while back. You lost face here at the hospital. You're running away.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
You are lying. You want to go to Africa again?
I don't, Maja. Do you think I did this on purpose? That I'm just here to stalk you?
Do you think Zhang Da can't survive without you? Did you forget I'm still here doing all the work?
You know that's not what I mean.
All right, welcome back. Now we are still having this discussion, and I'm specifically more interested when it comes to Article 10 of the Constitution. I mean, it's it's just so sweet to talk about it. But joining me in studio right now is George Sikulu. He's the CEO of the National Parents Association. George, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We've just taken off kidogo tu. You've not hatujaenda mbali sana.
Asante.
Karibu sana. Okay, but before you continue the discussion, let me join my colleague O'Brien Kimani, who is in Mombasa, to give us an update. O'Brien, good morning, and perhaps you can just give us a quick update on what's happening in the coastal town of Mombasa, where the International Accreditation Conference is currently happening at the Sarova White Sands Resort. O'Brien, a quick update. How are you doing?
And we are attending the first international accreditation conference which is taking place here at the coast. And this conference brings together more than 300 delegates from around the world. We have about 12 countries which are participating in this event. And why this event is significant, it is the first international conference for accreditation in the world. And so Kenya is the first country to organize and to host this kind of an event. And yes, who is joining us here is the chairperson of the organizing committee for this great conference, and also she's also the chair or the manager in charge of accreditation of testing laboratories at the Kenya Accreditation Service. This is Felista. Of course, she's joining us this morning to help us understand how important is this meeting, what is the way forward, and what are the expected deliverables. Thank you very much indeed, Felista, for joining us.
Thank you.
First of all, help us understand how important is this meeting to Kenya and to the world?
Indeed, it is a very exciting period for the Kenya Accreditation Service for us to host the first international accreditation conference. This is a conference that has not been held anywhere in the world, and we just wanted to bring stakeholders together so that we can discuss and have conversations around accreditation, quality systems, and how we can improve access of Kenyan products to the international markets. Yes.
Who is here and which countries are represented?
So here we have various stakeholders. We have ministries, departments, and agencies of government.
I apologize for that sound. We'll get back to O'Brien very shortly to give us an update on what's happening in Mombasa at the International Accreditation Conference. O'Brien, we'll get back to you shortly. Okay. How about we go to Kuria, JJ Kuria, to give us the sound and feel of what's happening in Makueni County. Kuria, good morning. If you can hear me, perhaps just give us a quick update on what's happening in Makueni and what you should expect today.
Good morning. This is Kasikeu in Kilome constituency of Makueni County. We're live from this area. This is the Mikuyu Bridge that President William Ruto is going to launch in the coming minutes, of course, once he arrives here to launch this bridge. It has been an eyesore, really, for the people here once this river fills to the brim and becomes completely impassable. And this is one of his missions, of course, as he tries to ensure that the perennial problem of flooding and causing inconvenience to the people of Ukambani is really addressed. You'll remember there is a visit that was supposed to happen a week before the Mashujade, and of course the days 2 or 3 days after the Mashujade celebrations. But then again, Kenya lost its democracy icon, the Honorable Raila Odinga, and President William Ruto suspended his public engagements for the very sake of ensuring that the country mourns within the 7-day mourning period. President William Ruto has resumed this visit to Ukambani, and therefore after this he will then head to Kibwezi West, and after Kibwezi West then head to Ote, the headquarters of Makueni County, for the launch of an affordable housing program, after which then the tour will kick off in Kitui as well as in Machakos in the coming days. But most importantly, this is where he will start the launch of this bridge. As you can see behind me, these are that's the plaque where he will be able to unveil this bridge, and the leadership of this county as well as the leadership of this ward as well as the constituency really upbeat about the prospects of this bridge and what it is going to do in terms of easing the inconvenience that always arises when there are heavy rains and this road becomes impassable. We'll be Of course, we'll continue to inform you regarding the visit by the president to the Ukambani region for these 3 days. But for now, let me hand you back to studio. I know we have Parliament upcoming, so let me hand you back to studio.
All right. Kioria, thank you so much. Of course, we'll be getting more in our subsequent bulletins. And of course, the president will be touring the larger Makueni County to launch different projects. Back in studio. All right. So, Edward, I gave you a minute to continue what you're submitting. The question that I wanted to ask you is, there is that aspect of collaboration between the national government, the legislative arms, and the parents. And now I'm also happy that George is here to help us talk about that from the National Parents Association. What is the link between these three bodies to enhance and reinforce Article 10?
Thank you, Victor, again. I was saying the program is aimed to bridge the gap, the experience of learners in school, so that we reinforce it by the engagement at home.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say, in this process, while the policy is national government, and we have a policy in place that has prescribed what each agency ought to do, the parents on their part, because family is an institution that is critical in nurturing the next generation. Socialization of children before even they go to school and while in school is critical. So we are intending to enhance the capacity of parents by engaging with them to enhance the awareness of national values. And we have developed a tool, which is a training manual that we'll be happy to share and launch tomorrow, which facilitates any stakeholder to enhance the capacity of parents to understand what the values are and to understand what are the activities, how do the engagements at home affect the learning of children. Because some parents or in some caregivers or guardians do not understand there is a relationship between how they relate with each other, how they conduct themselves, and how that impacts on the learning of learners. You know, learning is more of what you engage, what you see, than just what you hear. So the activities that kids are exposed to, some of people end up being alcoholic because they were exposed to an environment at home that predestined them towards alcoholism. And therefore, some parents do this without knowing. So we intend to help parents to understand and to be deliberate about parenting so that they nurture children in a manner that now they'll be fully entrenched in values and they will turn up to be responsible citizens.
Yeah, and now this is where George comes in. George, you've been accused. This is now where you come in.
Yeah, thank you so much. George Sikulu is my name.
Yes.
And CEO, National Parents Association. And we build capacity and coordinate the work of parents associations within the schools. We have 42,000 public schools in Kenya. Each one of them have a parents association, and they do have an executive team that is elected at school level, as well as a team that is at class level to represent all the parents. And we have a national chairman, David Obuhasa. So my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Director, for what you have shared. And one of the things that the Directorate has done after launching the manual is that they have piloted this manual with a team, a cohort, the first cohort of Parents Association. And this cohort of about 53 people. And the first thing we did in the tool is to define the values, you know, like the questions you're asking. The question you're asking is how can this value actually be legislated? So, for example, I'll give you an example. So, for example, a value of human dignity. In the Constitution, it has a definition. So it's not just human dignity as you think, but human dignity is defined here as the inherent right of an individual to be treated with respect. So that at
the key word is inherent.
Inherent,
right?
Yes, inherent value. Just the mere fact that they are created by God in the image of God, then there is within them the necessity of treating them with respect. So when we break that down to families, we say, hey, stop thinking about the big word called human dignity. We're talking about an individual qualifying to be respected. And so at home level, then we can say, what will then be the characteristics of human dignity practice? So then we teach parents and say, it means if we give people an acceptable standard of living, then that's dignity. If we give them fair treatment, that's dignity. If we give them opportunity to participate in decision making, that's dignity. If we give them, if there is an existence of a support system for those who are vulnerable or anyone who is passing through a vulnerability, that's dignity. And if we give them freedom from physical, social, sexual and mental harassment, then that's dignity. So if we define it to parents like that, then we say, so how then do you leave that out within the home? So the first thing is that you need to talk about it. So as a parent, that whenever these kind of things happen, then you need to, your voice needs to be heard at the family level that, no, that person did not do a good thing. How can they do this to someone? And the children need to hear that. The second thing is you need to live like that, because within your own home, there is decision making. How are you involving them in the decision making, or are you just deciding we're going to Mombasa today, or we're shifting from this place today? Are you involving them? Oh, but also within your home, there is vulnerabilities. There are those who have money. There is maybe one parent is working, another parent is not working. How is the parent who is working treating the parent who is not working? So there's a great opportunity to live out human dignity at household level, and guess what? This is what then ends up on the street.
I like that, but you see now, George, all of this will have to work, but there's some institutional factors that's actually now trying to slow down the progress towards having good governance. One of them, perhaps somebody can say, is access to information. All right? So how do you bridge this? Perhaps let me just come back to you first. That lack of information that the parent would want, you and I would understand, right? But that lack of information to the lower level for this to take effect in the society.
Well, I think what the Directorate's strategy is to get key stakeholders that provide ripple effect. So, for example, through the National Parents Association, we're able to reach almost 7.6 million people over time. Because, take it like this, so we have National Parents Association and we have County Parents Associations. Those are 47. And then each of those counties have sub-county parents associations. And then these ones have school parents associations. And in every school, maybe we have about 1,000 parents. So every school does have an annual general meeting. So if like for next year now, we are targeting that every school within the annual general meeting, we will bring this information to the people, and we have created brochures for them, so simple leaflets that we can give out. But we will also be able to, through the TOTs we are doing, then we have a facilitator in every school over time between first term and second term to be able to bring out this to the parents. So that is a significant number of people, 7.6 million households. And then now there are other organizations that are also working with other stakeholders that also the Directorate is working with. So I think if we do the stepped multiplication, we will be able to reach everyone. And of course, combining that with media and so on, we should be able to do that. I do agree that there is great need of information, but also there is always a beginning point. Our constitution is one of the most progressive in Africa. Personally, I'm very excited about it. And one of the progressive things about it is that chapter 10. Because then in economics, we say that there is a difference between economic growth and economic development. Economic growth is the growth in gross domestic product, which means you are buying and selling goods at an increasing rate. So for example, if an economy moves from $500 billion to $1 trillion, it has achieved economic growth. But if that economy at the same time is corrupt, it is dirty, it is polluted, it has no forest cover, it has unclean water, that economy is growing, but it's not developing. Now for it to develop, it needs behavior. Development is about behavior and growth is about investment. So therefore, chapter 10 is complementing the growth aspect of the economy and saying, hey, apart from the fact that we want to have generate more power, we want to generate more employment, but at the same time, we want to inculcate a behavior that can actually sustain that. And that's why we need values.
And now that's where the Directorate also comes in, because the Director, when you look at the social economic factors, you'll have to fight one big giant here, the cultural practices. For you to reinforce Article 10, some of the cultural practices, we all know that. We come from this country, and some of them are very rigid. How do you maneuver through that?
Thank you. The process of realizing the provisions of Article 10, like I said earlier, is a multi-sectoral engagement. And given the culture, and we appreciate the culture because it brought us where we are. But luckily, our culture is progressive. And being progressive means there are certain attributes of our culture that we will have to increasingly amend and adapt to the current realities. There are issues to deal with the FGM, things to deal with the culture of early marriages, things that encroach on the human dignity that we shared earlier, that encroach on the conduct and the moral ability of society and individuals to fully realize their potential, which again, other forms of legislation have put in place. And again, government has put in place agencies and institutions like the NGEC, National Gender and Equality Commission, and all that. All those agencies are doing their bit. I think that reinforces what you said earlier about information. When we are talking about enabling parents to fully play their part to nurture and to raise a generation that will reflect the values, then we are talking about each agency playing their part, and access to information will include opportunities that we are creating, such as what I mentioned earlier, the tool we have provided that will facilitate the engagement with parents so that they get to know what is their right and what are the activities that they can engage in to reinforce values and what not to engage in. Because that way we're also saying there are effects and impacts of what we have done traditionally, which we now have to rise to the reality and modify how we do that. And how we relate with one another, again, has to be intentional, so that we are now not just confronting like a couple that will fight before their children. That will begin to see that this, again, will impact negatively on the children. So that kind of information is realized and engaged through the activities that we are setting to engage in the campaign.
Do we have willingness from the parents' side? Because the directorate will do its part fully, but the willingness from the society to accept change, change is not that easy.
Well, it's a normal curve that usually you get maybe to 18 to 20% of the people that very quickly jump onto something new. And then majority need some capacity building, some sensitization, some encouragement, some motivation. And then maybe you get another 18 to 20% that don't want to change at all. So the good news is that you have majority of the people, 60-65% of the people with motivation do take the change. So I think for us the focus is on what measures can we put in place so that we can have as much as possible this information getting to them. And that's why through our structure we are doing TOTs so that we have as many people amongst them as possible that can speak to them. But then thinking about the progressiveness of our constitution, there is also the progressiveness of the education system. And I think that CBE is probably among the most progressive education systems, again, we have maybe the continent, because it's a value-based education system. One, you see, for the first time, we are saying that the goal of education includes values. So there are several goals of education in the Constitution, and one of them, for example, becomes patriotism. One of them, the other one becomes actualization and efficacy. The other one becomes being a global citizen. The other one becomes being a digital person. These are goals of education. And as we look at the competencies, we are teaching the children digital skills. We are teaching them citizenship, being Kenyan, and so on. And so this is a very progressive system. And because it's value-based, the values go with it. So that the children are being taught love in school, peace in school, something like that.
And that is why you have an event tomorrow, 13th?
Yes, 13th.
In 30 seconds, please tell us what it's all about and how we can attend.
Tomorrow on 13th, together with the stakeholders, including the National Parents Association and other government agencies, we are hosting a launch of a campaign to nurture national values among the children and the youth. And this campaign is going to be implemented over a period of time. We are targeting to use parents because they are the custodian of children whether they are in school, at home, they are answerable to the parents. And so we want parents to be more involved in the nurturing of values, supplementing what is being done in school. But then we want parents to come on board. We are targeting to reach parents through the National Parents Association. We have on board the interreligious organization, the Religious Council. So through religious organizations and other partners, we want to get to parents and engage with them. One of the tokens or the symbol of the campaign is a training manual, which we have again collaboratively developed, that is all-inclusive, that proposes certain measures and activities that can be implemented in the home environment, so that when fully realized, then this will begin to impact on the next generation.
Yes.
We do hope that this campaign will help turn around children that will be values-based, and a society that, and citizens that will be responsible.
Thank you.
Members of society.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have to wrap it up there. Asante sana, and we are looking forward to attending. Personally, I will come there. Now that I'm here,
Most
I will
welcome.
attend that function tomorrow at Railways Headquarters.
Railways Headquarters, yes.
Thank you so much. Asante sana. That is Edward Nyongesa, Director, Directorate National Cohesion and Values, State Department for National Government Coordination, based at the Office of the Cabinet Secretary. Thank you so much for joining us, as well as George Sikulu, who is the CEO, National Parents Association. Gentlemen, asante sana.
Thank you.
That's where we take her up on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. My name is Victor Lo. For the entire generation of the whole of this crew, thank you for being with us. Good morning.
وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا.
Kile ambacho wanafanya wewe na mke wako ama wewe na mume wako, basi unatakiwa kukifanya kiwe ni baina yenu,
iwe ni siri baina ya mume na mke. Lakini mmoja wao kama ataanza kuzungumza, atamwambia fulani, mimi nimefanya na mke wangu hivi na hivi na hivi, bali ni katika tabia chafu mno, na ile dhiki na ukupata katika maisha, usije ukatangaza ukawashtakia wanadamu.
Wazazi wa Kiislamu huchukua jukumu la kuwalea watoto kwa misingi ya imani, maadili
Hata kani kuchapa, how do you kuchapa ni kuchoma mtoto?
Between me and your mother, ni nani mkali?
Ninyi wote.
Unaona generation vile inakaa?
Si generation,
anauliza swali kulingana na vile nyinyi. Ndio maana huwa nakapiga. Yaani
unakapika.
Ulimupiga ndiye ni ukajua mimi ndio msasi wake.
Were you there?
I was not there.
Thank you very much. So why do you feel pain? You see, she was your baby.
Toto ni ya jamii.
Jamii
Hautamisa mtoto na sisi akae kando.
Mtoto amefukuziwa school fees, sio wa jamii.
Mbona mkaamua kuoana mapema hivi?
Ma, tumekuwa penzi kwa muda wa mwaka mmoja sasa.
Mwaka mmoja? Lakini mbona hujasema lolote?
Uliingiaje hapa?
Wataka kuwa jambazi?
La.
Basi usiniulize hilo swali.
Endelea nyanya. Nasikia kuwa kifagio kipya ufagia vyema kuliko kile cha zamani.
Mimi sishindani nawe.
Mlikuwa naye. Mbona hukumuua?
My talents are dancing, acting, and even playing football.
I wonder what happened during their visit to the hospital that made their visits a little bit better.
My name is Stephanie, and today I'm going to show you how to make chocolate chip cookies.
And today I'm going to teach you how to make a coconut tree out of a paper plate.
Shiny, shiny shoes.
in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. We are glad that you are joining us for these proceedings this morning. A warm welcome to you. Currently on your screens, that is inside the Senate chambers. Last preparations by the clerk. And of course, in a short while, we should be expecting senators to start making their way inside. And later, the Speaker's procession. But as we wait for that, we shall take a look at the business that the senators will be transacting this morning, being a Wednesday morning. As is that tradition, is that the senators will be engaging cabinet secretaries on matters concerning Kulbi County, inter-county, national, regional, or even international. So this morning, the senators will be engaging the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Culture, and Children Services, Hannah Wendot Cheptumo, who we understand has confirmed her attendance or her appearance before the Senate this morning. We have seen the nominated Senator, Honorable Miraj Abdullahi, just making her way inside. She has a question for the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Culture and Children's Service. This question revolves around matters funding of the Directorate of Children's Services. And in this question, the Senator will be seeking to understand from the Cabinet Secretary on any actions that the ministry has taken to address the chronic underfunding of the Directorate of Children's Services, and whether the Cabinet Secretary could disclose the budget estimate for the Directorate in the 2025-2026 financial year, as well as for the projected budgetary allocation for the Directorate in the medium term. Related to this matter, the Senator will be also seeking to understand from the CS if there are any measures that the ministry has put in place to ensure timely and full utilization of funds allocated for children's welfare and protection through the Directorate of Children's Services and the Victims Protection Fund. Linked to that particular issue, the Senator will also be seeking to understand from the CS on whether the CS